Chapter 46. When she was first taken back to the Shi family, Shi Shujing was very lonely. She picked up a little yellow cat and brought it back to raise, but it died a few months later. She was very sad, and after that she never raised any small animals again, afraid that they would die. But now, the furry little guy in her palm aroused her pity, and she could not bear to leave it here. There were very few stray cats in such a big city. Even if there were, they were usually abandoned by their owners. It could be that the female cat was abandoned by its owner as soon as it was born. Jingqi was very disgusted with small animals, and she would throw them out even if she brought them home. After thinking about it, Shi Shujing called Gao Zhuqing. Half an hour later, Shi Shujing arrived at Gao Zhuqing's house. She was very happy to see Shi Shujing, but she frowned when she saw the cat. "Where did this stray cat come from?" "I picked it up on the street," Shi Shujing said as she walked in, and Gao Zhuqing could not stop her. "You picked it up on the street and you brought it to my house? Aren't you afraid that it is sick and has fleas?" However, she did not care about Gao Zhuqing at all. "It will be clean after a bath." Although she said that, Gao Zhuqing was only stunned for a moment before he reacted. "Wait, you are not thinking of raising it, are you?" Shi Shujing nodded calmly, not taking it seriously. "Yes. The weather is so cold and it is so small. It will not live long if I leave it on the street. I can't bear it. It was just raising a cat, not a person." She could still afford it with her financial ability. However, Gao Zhuqing did not seem to be happy. "If you can't bear it, you can send it to the animal shelter. Why do you have to raise it yourself? Will your mother-in-law agree?" She laughed as she listened, but it was more or less a bitter smile. How could she agree? "So I can only leave it with you." "What? With me?" Gao Zhuqing's mouth opened so wide that it could swallow an egg, and he shook his head. "Absolutely not. I can barely take care of myself, let alone a cat." Shi Shujing held the kitten as if it was a baby and played with it. "Can't you have a little conscience? It's very pitiful for it to live on the streets. I'll send you the living expenses on time every month." However, even so, Gao Zhuqing still seemed unwilling. "My conscience has long been eaten by dogs. No matter what, I won't keep it. I don't have the time and energy." Hearing this, Shi Shujing quietly looked up at Gao Zhuqing, but Gao Zhuqing deliberately turned his head away, not even looking at her. Seeing this, Shi Shujing was silent for a while. Her eyes moved. "You must. I'll help you settle the interview with Si Wenchen, so you owe me a favor." Gao Zhuqing was about to stomp his foot. "Shi Shujing, you're too cunning." In fact, what she wanted to say was that she had helped Shi Shujing countless times before. Even if they wanted to cancel it out, Shi Shujing still owed her a favor, not she owed Shi Shujing a favor. However, seeing that Shi Shujing was really determined to keep the kitten, she couldn't bear to refute him. On the other side, Shi Shujing continued to persuade Gao Zhuqing. "I remember you said on the phone that I'm the most powerful person in the world. I only remember that sentence. I'll pretend that I didn't hear what you said just now. It's a little dirty, let me give it a bath first." Shi Shujing said as he pushed Gao Zhuqing aside and entered the bathroom. Gao Zhuqing saw that the situation had been decided, and could only hold his forehead with a headache. Shi Shujing's voice came from inside. "I'll buy a litter box and cat food tomorrow. I'll be responsible for the food and supplies. You just have to feed it on time every day and play with it." Hearing this, Gao Zhuqing pursed her lips and looked very aggrieved. "Miss, I'm very busy. I leave early and come back late. How can I have time to accompany it? I can only promise you that it won't starve to death. I really can't do anything else." After bathing the kitten and coaxing it to sleep, it was already past 8 o'clock. Shi Shujing poured a glass of water and saw a lot of documents on the table. He picked them up and glanced at them casually. "Materials for the interview?" Gao Zhuqing nodded. "Yes. I've been collecting information all day. This interview is with Si Wenchen, so I have to be careful and not make any mistakes. By the way, I've thought of some questions. Help me take a look." As she spoke, she hurriedly flipped through the documents. Shi Shujing glanced at the documents in his hand. "Not bad. It's quite deep." After Gao Zhuqing flipped through it, she handed it to Shi Shujing. Chapter 47. Hearing this, Shi Shujing was a little embarrassed. "You are not a paparazzi. Just ask about his work. Why do you have to pry into his private life?" Gao Zhuqing chuckled. "He is so low-key. The readers must want to know about his private life. We'll sell better this way. I have to ensure the sales of the magazine. Help me take a look." Shi Shujing frowned when she saw the first question. It is not appropriate to ask if he is married. However, Gao Zhuqing looked at Shi Shujing curiously. "Aren't you curious?" To be honest, Shi Shujing had never thought about this before. She sounded a little uncertain. He should not be married, right? I don't see him wearing a wedding ring. Actually, she was just guessing. Gao Zhuqing wanted to agree with her opinion, but he refused to agree with her. Nowadays many people marry in secret. Don't you often not wear a wedding ring? Even if he does not have a wife, he might have a girlfriend. Oh, do you know the inside story? Hearing that he had a girlfriend, Shi Shujing immediately felt that she was being nosy, so she corrected her attitude. I don't know. I'm not familiar with him. How can I know so much? Besides, I am not as gossipy as you. But Gao Zhuqing was not like this. He still wanted to help her find out the details. Gossiping is the nature of a reporter. It is better if he does not have a girlfriend. I don't want you to be the third wheel. Moreover, Shi Shujing was really not interested. She was very interested in him. If Shi Shujing did not want to flirt with her, she would do it herself. She could not waste such an excellent man. However, when Shi Shujing heard her talk about being the third wheel, he reminded her unhappily. What nonsense are you talking about? Didn't I explain it to you clearly? He and I are partners. But Gao Zhuqing did not think so. I know men very well. I feel that the way he looks at you is not normal. I think he likes you. At least he is very interested in you. Shi Shujing recalled the rainy night last night, when Si Wenxin said something similar to her. She could not help but be absent-minded. Because her behavior was too obvious, Gao Zhuqing noticed it at a glance. What did you think of? Did he give you a hint? After coming back to his senses, Shi Shujing lowered his head to avoid her gaze. No. You think too much. Gao Zhuqing could not hold back his anger. I'm just worrying for you, aren't I? Let me ask you, if Si Wenxin pursues you, will you divorce Qin Baiyuan? Shi Shujing poked her forehead with a finger. That's your problem. You always like to make wild guesses. I'm different from you. My principle is to never worry about something that didn't happen. Gao Zhuqing pushed her hand away. You're so stubborn. There are so many men who don't want you, but you insist on Qin Baiyuan. I don't care about other men, but this is Si Wenxin. If I were you, I would take advantage of his interest in you to get him. People like him change their minds very quickly. He likes you today, but he may like someone else tomorrow. You won't get another chance like this. If you don't seize this opportunity, you will regret it in the future. Hearing this, Shi Shujing could not help shaking his head and laughing. If the other party's love really came and went so quickly, it would be useless even if he hurried to get the other party. In this society there were many couples who broke up and got back together. However, seeing that Gao Zhuqing was talking about Si Wenxin so urgently, Shi Shujing seemed to find some clues and could not help teasing him. If you like him so much, you can do it yourself. Unexpectedly, Gao Zhuqing was angry. Do you think I don't want to? If he had the slightest interest in me, I would have done it myself. Shujing, don't blame me. Let me say this first. If you really don't like him, I will do it. Shi Shujing could not help but shake his head and laugh. A few days later, Qin Yuning returned to China. Qin Baiyuan and Shi Shujing went to pick him up. On the way there, the atmosphere in the car was stiff. Neither of them spoke, and there was a faint smell of gunpowder. Chapter 48. Ever since Qin Baiyuan got in the car, his brows had not relaxed. From time to time, he would glance at Shi Shujing from the corner of his eyes. When he saw her calm look, he got angry and said coldly, "Don't talk nonsense in front of my dad later." Hearing that, Shi Shujing did not even look at him. What do you think I'll say? Everyone knows about your scandals. Do you think he doesn't know? Do I need to say it? If you're worried that he'll be angry, you shouldn't be so high profile. Her tone was flat like a pool of stagnant water. There was no hint of sarcasm, but it made Qin Baiyuan furious. Watch your tone. She laughed coldly in her heart. I don't think there's anything wrong with my tone. You. Qin Baiyuan gritted his teeth. The corner of his eyes twitched and he sneered. You're good. Sure enough, with a wild man backing you up, you're totally different. You dare to talk back to me. Have you hardened your wings? Her face was more or less calm. I'm just telling the truth. Shi Shujing had always been unwilling to intensify the conflict. Plus, there was no point in quarreling, so he had been tolerating it. But after being a soft persimmon for too long, not only did Qin Baiyuan not restrain himself, his attitude towards her became worse. Especially after yesterday's words provoked her, she gradually became a little angry. However, Qin Baiyuan could not bear to see her like this. Tell the truth? Tell the truth, you're the one who's having an affair. You've even hooked up with Si Wenxin, what else do you want? Why don't you just get a divorce? Do you want a two-time, or are you afraid that he'll dump you so you need me as a safeguard? This time Shi Shujing finally frowned. She turned to look at him. Let me emphasize again, Mr. Jean and I are not like what you think. Not everyone is as indiscriminate as you. Any woman is fine. Shi Shujing. Every word was squeezed out from the gaps of Qin Baiyuan's teeth. You still have the cheek to mock me? Why don't you think about who made me become like this? You're the one who harmed me. That's right. I'd rather find a prostitute to vent my feelings on than touch you. In my heart, you're much dirtier than them. You disgust me. Shi Shujing coldly turned his face away from the window and ended the battle. Then I'm really sorry. Even if it's disgusting, you have to endure it. Shi Shujing didn't feel the slightest bit of happiness as those words stung her as well. For a long time she had been in a state of contradiction. On the one hand, what Qin Baiyuan had done had made her numb. She didn't want to pay attention to his relationship with those women. It was useless to care about it. It would only make her sadder. On the other hand, in the deepest part of her heart, she still felt pain. It was a kind of silent pain that pierced her heart and gnawed at her bones. There seemed to be one abyss after another in front of him, and he could never see any hope. At the airport, the sun shone down from the dome of heaven, and the travelers were in a hurry. Qin Baiyuan and Shi Shujing stood together. Both of them were in a bad mood and their faces were gloomy. Even if their eyes met occasionally, they would look away and didn't want to look at each other. The phone rang and Qin Baiyuan took out his mobile phone. After looking at the number, he showed a proud smile and deliberately raised his voice. Baby, do you miss me? Of course I miss you too. I've been thinking about you all day and I can't stand it. Qin Baiyuan's voice was so gentle that it could drip water. It was extremely numb, and he was like a different person from the vicious and cruel man just now. Shi Shujing knew that he was deliberately provoking her. She didn't want to listen to his words, but she couldn't help being affected by him. She was both resentful and a little sour in her heart. What do I miss you for? Baby, of course I miss the way you look in bed. You really make me love you so much that I love you to the bone. Shi Shujing was so disgusted that she wanted to vomit, but he was doing it on purpose. How do you know that I like you to dress up as a bunny girl the most? You're indeed my baby, you really know me. I like you to dress up as a bunny girl and use your... Okay. I'll look for you tonight. Wash up and wait for me. Qin Baiyuan hung up the phone and glanced at Shi Shujing proudly. He knew this woman a little. Although she pretended to be fine, he could still see that she was sad. Chapter 49. When Qin Yuning came out of the gate, Shi Shujing's face revealed a trace of joy as he quickly walked up to greet him. Dad, you're back. Didn't I say that you don't have to come pick me up? Thank you for your hard work. Qin Yuning's attitude toward Shi Shujing was very gentle, like a loving father, but he didn't give Qin Baiyuan a good look. When Qin Baiyuan called out to him, he pretended not to hear him. I'm not tired, you're the one who's tired. Shi Shujing wanted to help Qin Yuning carry her luggage, but Qin Yuning stuffed it into Qin Baiyuan's hands and left with Shi Shujing while talking and laughing. It was as if they were father and daughter and Qin Baiyuan was an outsider. On the way back, Qin Baiyuan drove and looked at the two of them from the rearview mirror from time to time. Qin Yuning was usually serious, but in front of Shi Shujing, the corners of his mouth were always full of smiles, asking about his well-being. How's work recently? Is it going well? I heard you took over the Ocean Group's project. Shi Shujing nodded. Yes. Qin Yuning, who was like a loving father, continued to care about him. Are you too tired? You've lost a lot of weight. If you're under too much pressure, I'll send you an assistant. Hearing these words, Shi Shujing's heart felt somewhat warm. Thank you, Dad. I can handle it myself at the moment. Only then did he stop nagging. Girls, don't be too strong, especially since you're the daughter-in-law of our Qin family. I have to take good care of you on behalf of your father. When Shi Shujing heard this, her heart warmed. All these years, Qin Yuning had been treating her well, especially after she married Qin Baiyuan. He had treated her like his own daughter. Therefore, part of Qin Baiyuan's hatred for her was due to psychological imbalance and jealousy. When she raised her head, she saw him staring at her like a tiger staring at its prey, as if she had stolen his father. He was already an adult, but he still couldn't get rid of his childish mentality. On the way, Qin Baiyuan interrupted, but Qin Yuning pretended not to hear him. She only talked to Shi Shujing. Even she was a little embarrassed. Qin Baiyuan's face was gloomy and he was very unhappy. Shi Shujing felt that he could be torn apart by Qin Baiyuan's gaze. He sighed in his heart. When the three of them returned home, Yin Jingqi had already prepared dinner. The strong woman in the business world was now just like a virtuous housewife. Usually she didn't even enter the kitchen. Yin Jingqi came forward and pushed Shi Shujing aside. She was extremely friendly. You've flown for more than 10 hours. Are you tired? You came back just in time. Dinner is ready. It's all your favorites. Yin Jingqi kept putting food into Qin Yuning's bowl as the four of them sat down. Did you arrange for Shi Shujing to take over the Ocean Group's project? Shi Shujing did not expect that he would suddenly mention this matter at the dinner table, and immediately felt two resentful gazes directed at him. There was a trace of displeasure in the corner of Yin Jingqi's eyes as she nodded. Seeing this, Qin Yuning immediately reprimanded her. You know the background of the Ocean Group. It has never been easy to cooperate with them. Shi Shujing has only worked for 2 years. How can you rashly arrange for her to take over such a difficult project? Yin Jingqi curled her lips. Didn't you praise her ability all day long, saying that I suppressed her and didn't give her a chance? Now that I've given her a chance, you say that about me. What do you want from me? Qin Yuning could tell that this was Yin Jingqi's excuse to make things difficult for Shi Shujing. How many of these things had happened in the past 2 years? At the side, Shi Shujing saw that the atmosphere was not right. Although she did not like Yin Jingqi, she did not want Qin Yuning to have a conflict with Yin Jingqi because of her. Therefore, she immediately spoke up to mediate. Dad, don't blame Mom. This is a very good opportunity for me. I also want to challenge myself. Yin Jingqi's eyes became even more resentful. She was certain that Shi Shujing was deliberately pretending to be a good person to please Qin Yuning. Not only did he steal her son, but he also tried to steal her husband. On the surface he was speaking up for her, but in fact he must have snitched on her over the phone. Otherwise, Qin Yuning would not have mentioned this matter as soon as he returned home. Therefore she mocked him in a strange tone. You heard her. I didn't force her. I just followed your instructions and gave her a chance to train. Besides, your daughter-in-law is also very capable. She has already contacted the other side. I think it's most likely settled. Qin Yuning did not believe Yin Jingqi's words and only asked Shi Shujing. It's settled? She could only look at Qin Yuning. We're still negotiating. We'll only have a result after we submit the new plan. It's not very clear yet, but I'll do my best. Well done. Qin Yuning nodded approvingly. Chapter 50. Hearing this, Shi Shujing smiled faintly. I will, Dad. Yin Jingqi and Qin Baiyuan were staring at her covetously. Shi Shujing wanted to pretend that nothing had happened, but it was a little difficult. If looks could kill, she would have died 1,000 or 10,000 times by now. Speaking of her conflict with Yin Jingqi, Shi Shujing didn't know what to say. She always felt that some of Yin Jingqi's hostility towards her sometimes came from Qin Baiyuan, and sometimes from Qin Yuning. She didn't know what kind of mentality the women who were already mothers-in-law had now. Shouldn't she be happy to marry her son? Why did she have the mentality that she was snatching her son away from her? There was also the relationship between father-in-law and daughter-in-law. Shi Shujing didn't know how other daughters-in-law got along with their father-in-law. In front of Qin Yuning she had always been well-behaved. She didn't have any crooked thoughts in her heart. Although they weren't related by blood, she sincerely treated him as her own father. However, sometimes Shi Shujing felt that if Qin Yuning treated her a little better, even if it was just a normal friendliness, Yin Jingqi's expression would not look good. She would even pretend to look for trouble afterward. Therefore, Yin Jingqi's dislike of her was far from that simple. It contained too many mixed together, and then it produced a sense of disgust. Sometimes she tried to explain something to her mother-in-law. However, even if she had such a mentality, others might not have the same mentality. She wanted to make peace, but others were deliberately stirring up trouble. Shi Shujing only had one feeling about the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law. It was difficult to explain in a few words. After dinner, Qin Yuning called Shi Shujing into the room alone. Qin Baiyuan paced back and forth in the living room like a trapped beast, paying attention to the movement and complaining. It's already been an hour. What's there to talk about with Dad? Yin Jingqi was also very annoyed, but she didn't show it. She crossed her legs and flipped through the magazine, pretending to be calm and collected. Calm down, son. It's not good for you to be so anxious. Hearing this, he turned his head. I just can't accept it. I've done so much for the company and everyone can see it for themselves. Dad hasn't even mentioned it. Now the cooperation hasn't even been settled and Dad praises her like that. It's so unfair. Yin Jingqi, who was sitting on the sofa, was also a little unhappy with Shi Shujing. That can't be helped. I told you that the vixen is very powerful. She might have drugged your father with some kind of drug. Yin Jingqi's words were sharp and unkind, with a strong sense of jealousy. Although she had suspected the relationship between the two, life was like this. It was not good for her to say things without evidence. Qin Baiyuan couldn't bear it anymore. As soon as Shi Shujing walked out of the study, he rushed upstairs, knocked on the door twice impatiently and barged in. Qin Yunning had just sat down and glared at him in displeasure. "Didn't I teach you that you can't enter the study without my permission?" When he heard this, he was unhappy. In fact, he was unhappy to begin with. Why can Shi Shujing do it? "Dad, what did you talk about with her for so long?" Qin Yunning calmly retracted his gaze. "That's between me and her. You don't have to ask." Qin Baiyuan complained unhappily. "I'm your son. How can you side with an outsider? Today she and I went to pick you up, but you didn't even look at me. What am I? Your chauffeur? Aren't you being too disrespectful to me?" Qin Yunning snorted coldly. "If you want me to respect you, you have to see if you're worthy of my respect and if you're worthy of Shi Shujing's respect. Don't think that I don't know about your scandals abroad. You fool around with all kinds of women all day long. If someone asks me with the newspaper, I won't have the face to admit that you're my son." He had an upright style, especially in his private life. Therefore, in this aspect, Qin Baiyuan's outlook on life was different from his. That was why he disliked Qin Baiyuan so much, even if the other party was his own son. Qin Baiyuan was so angry that his face and neck turned red. "Why don't you think about it? Who did I become like this?" This reason didn't get Qin Yunning's approval. Chapter 51. However, just like how Qin Yunning could not understand Qin Baiyuan could not understand his father. "At that time I only promised you to marry her, but I didn't promise you any loyalty. I don't love her, I hate her, why should I be loyal to her? If you want me to sever my relationship with those women, I can divorce them. I'll do whatever you want me to do." However, Qin Yunning didn't know what he was insisting on, but he was so angry that he took advantage of him. "Shut up. I've said it many times, as long as I'm still alive, you can forget about divorcing Shi Shujing." Qin Baiyuan clenched his fists, his eyes were burning, but Qin Yunning didn't want to waste any more words with him. "Go back to your room, I don't want to see you now." As a result, Qin Baiyuan coldly snorted and left. "You don't want to see me? I don't want to stay in this house." "Stop right there." Qin Yunning slammed the table and stood up, angrily scolding. "Where are you going?" Although he stopped, he didn't turn around. "Who cares where I go? In short, I don't want to stay in this damned place for another second." This time, Qin Yunning really felt like he was going to be driven mad by this bastard of a son. Really, it was better to have a piece of barbecued pork than to have him angry all day long. "Ridiculous. This is your home. I was too lenient with you before, that's why your mother taught you to be like this. In the future, I will not tolerate it. If you dare to leave the room today, there will be no place for you in the company in the future." Qin Baiyuan was so angry that he rushed out of the door, but he didn't leave. Qin Yunning was a man of his word, but he was still young and didn't have the ability to contend against him. He didn't want to ruin his future for a dead woman. Shi Shujing took her pajamas and was about to take a bath when Qin Baiyuan suddenly barged in, causing her to be stunned. "Didn't you go out?" Qin Baiyuan wished he could strangle her to death. His eyes were red as he gnashed his teeth. "Go. Where can I go?" She still didn't know the truth and didn't know that he had just had a big fight with his father. "Don't you have a date with a bunny?" Was Shi Shujing mocking him? "You deserve to die." Qin Baiyuan slammed the door hard, and the whole room made a loud bang. Shi Shujing knew that he had a bad temper, but she didn't know why he was so angry all of a sudden, so she subconsciously wanted to explain something. "I didn't complain to Dad, so don't get mad at me. Besides, I didn't complain about the project either. I don't know why he suddenly mentioned it." He sneered when he heard that. He always felt that this woman was especially good at acting. Stop pretending to be innocent. Do you think I don't know that you're the one behind this? What? You have the guts to do it but not the guts to admit it? There it was again. Qin Baiyuan always thought that she had done a lot of wicked things behind his back, but she really hadn't done anything. So, Shi Shujing turned around indifferently and was about to enter the bathroom. "Whatever you say, I have a clear conscience. If I disgust you, you can leave. You don't have to face me." Qin Baiyuan was angry. "This is my home. What right do you have to drive me away? You asked me to leave, but I insist on staying." Shi Shujing's eyes widened. "You was staying here tonight?" Next, Shi Shujing went into the bathroom to take a bath. When she thought that Qin Baiyuan was outside, she had a very strange feeling. Sleeping with her husband was a very common thing, but her relationship with Qin Baiyuan was too special. They were not a normal couple at all, so it seemed very strange. The last time he stayed in the room overnight was the night they got married. He drank a lot and was so drunk that he couldn't walk. Otherwise he wouldn't have stayed. She took care of him for the whole night, but the next day when he woke up, the first thing he did was to push her hand away and throw it on the ground. He even smashed a vase and shouted angrily that he wanted her to be a widow. He did what he said. After being married for 3 years, she faced an empty room every night. She had always been alone, and it was more uncomfortable than being a widow. She felt very complicated now. Although she was not used to it, she didn't worry too much because she knew that Qin Baiyuan wouldn't touch her. On the other hand, there was a faint joy that she shouldn't have. No matter how bad he treated her, she still hoped to be with him. Even if it was only for one night, she would cherish it. Chapter 52. Qin Baiyuan frowned and turned around. His tone was very harsh. "Are you very dirty after washing for so long?" She was suddenly speechless and didn't know what to say to him. The man impatiently tore off his tie and threw it aside. He took out his pajamas from the wardrobe. When he passed by her, he saw that she was wrapped up tightly and became unhappy again. "Why are you wrapped up like a dumpling? Are you worried that I will do something to you?" Qin Baiyuan's eyes were cold and his lips curled into a mocking smile. "You wish. But even if you take off your clothes, I will not have any reaction at all. I will only disgust you. Also, I have no choice but to stay tonight. Don't pretend that you don't know and deliberately break into the bathroom to peep at me. I know you can do it. You sleep on the sofa and I will sleep on the bed. Take the quilt." He was really unhappy when he didn't insult her because he was annoyed when he saw her. Shi Shujing glanced at him through her hair. He was obviously very beautiful, but it was wrapped in a heart that was crueler than the devil. How could there be such a hateful man? Qin Baiyuan walked into the bathroom. After Shi Shujing dried her hair, she silently took the quilt and pillow and placed them on the sofa. She knew that Qin Baiyuan would not be compassionate and give her the bed, but she couldn't help feeling a little disappointed. Even if he didn't love her, could he at least be like a gentleman? If it was Si Wenxin, damn it, why did she think of him again? Shi Shujing shook her head and drove him out of her mind. She felt that her thoughts were ridiculous. Just when she was thinking about it, her phone rang. Shi Shujing looked and saw that it was Qin Baiyuan's phone vibrating and the words, Su Jixin, were flashing on the screen. She thought that he would pretentiously set it to a nickname like Baby. At that time, Shi Shujing didn't know what he was thinking. He felt uncomfortable and picked it up in a moment of impulse. "Honey, why aren't you here yet? I have been waiting for you for a long time." Her sweet voice inexplicably made Shi Shujing feel disgusted. Her lips twitched coldly and her tone was indifferent. "I'm Shi Shujing." "Shi Shujing?" The other party turned pale with fright and almost screamed. "Why are you with Qin Baiyuan?" Upon hearing this, Shi Shujing wanted to cry and laugh at the same time. He felt that Su Jixin's question was too strange. "He's my husband and I'm his wife. Is it weird for us to be together?" Su Jixin flew into a rage out of humiliation. "You damn woman, what trick did you use? How could Qin Baiyuan be with you?" On the other end, Shi Shujing smiled disdainfully. "That's funny. What methods can I use? If he didn't stay willingly, would I still be able to tie him up?" However, Su Jixin obviously did not believe her words. "What can't a person like you do? What you're doing is useless. Qin Baiyuan won't touch you. You're not him." "How do you know he won't?" The more the other party screamed, the calmer Shi Shujing's smile became. "Are you worried? But it makes sense. Men think with their lower bodies. It's normal for a man and a woman to do anything when they're alone. Moreover, we're husband and wife." "But Miss Su, what identity did you use to look for my husband in the middle of the night?" A wild woman flipped out at her, the wife's legal wife, in the middle of the night. It was really confusing right and wrong. It was extremely absurd. "Shi Shujing, you bitch. Shameless. It's useless even if you pester Qin Baiyuan shamelessly." Su Jixin cursed like a shrew. Shi Shujing held the phone a little further away, thinking that the flies had come early this year. At this moment, the phone was suddenly snatched away by someone. Qin Baiyuan stood behind her and snatched the phone. He stared at her with a livid face and said to the phone, "It's me." Shi Shujing heard Su Jixin's sharp voice asking why the two of them were together. Her curses were very unpleasant. It was difficult to understand her character. How did she win the Miss China championship? It was most likely that the Su family used their connections to get it. "I'll tell you tomorrow. That's all." Qin Baiyuan hung up the phone. He looked like he wanted to kill Shi Shujing and gnashed his teeth. "How dare you answer my phone? Who gave you the right to do so?" Shi Shujing did not know how to explain and did not want to explain. She turned around and left. However, Qin Baiyuan grabbed her wrist forcefully and looked very angry. Her temples were throbbing violently. Chapter 53. The man's fingers kept increasing the strength, causing Shi Shujing's face to turn pale in pain, but she endured the pain. Your phone was too noisy, so I picked it up. His eyes were cold. Do you really think of yourself as my wife? Shi Shujing didn't want to quarrel with him. Let go of me. The man didn't move. I won't let go. Explain to me clearly, where did you get the guts to do this? Shi Shujing twisted her wrist a few times. The pain was a little unbearable and her temper flared up. I don't have to explain everything to you. He was a little angry. That's my phone. Who asked you to answer it? I'll answer it if I want to. It's none of your business. Shi Shujing struggled desperately to break free from Qin Baiyuan's iron grip, but he immediately grabbed her bathrobe. I haven't finished speaking. How dare you leave? In the midst of pulling, he used too much strength and the bathrobe was directly torn open. Shi Shujing was caught off guard, and her white shoulders were exposed to the air. She wasn't wearing any underwear, and her mind went blank for a few seconds, unable to react. The two of them were in a deadlock, facing each other. Qin Baiyuan's mind was still in a state of anger, but his vision was fiercely shocked. Usually, Shi Shujing dressed like an old nun, and he had always felt that her figure was very poor. He didn't expect that under that old-fashioned uniform, there was actually such a graceful figure. Her skin was very smooth, soft and exquisite like the finest porcelain. Boom in Qin Baiyuan's mind, and a wave of heat rushed straight to his brain, making a wung 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 sound. After coming back to her senses, Shi Shujing hurriedly pulled the bathrobe, like a frightened deer, looking at him in panic. Her messy long hair wrapped around her small palm-sized face, and her eyes were innocent and flustered. Because of the shock, her lips were slightly opened and she was panting heavily. Her lips were pink and tender, and it actually made it difficult for Qin Baiyuan to control his thoughts, and he wanted to hold her in his arms and kiss her fiercely. His eyes, which were originally filled with anger, instantly turned scarlet red and even more fiery than before. Those two flames made Shi Shujing panic. She hurriedly ran away and crawled into the quilt. She wrapped herself up tightly and turned her back to him. Her heart was beating like thunder, like a little deer was running around, and her cheeks were burning hot. After a while, Qin Baiyuan recovered from the shock and felt speechless about himself. Just now, it was as if he had been bewitched by the woman he hated the most. When he suddenly woke up, he felt that it was absurd and shameful, and he hated her even more. He was sure that she was deliberately using this trick to seduce him. In other words, she had also used this trick to deal with those men before. Initially, he had his doubts because he did not believe that an ugly woman like Shi Shujing would be attracted by a man. However, she was like a demon just now. Even she had a shameful reaction, let alone those men. At this moment, Qin Baiyuan's feelings were complicated and he was extremely frustrated. He angrily fell onto the bed and turned off the lights, but he could not fall asleep. If this continued, Qin Baiyuan would definitely go crazy. He angrily glared at Shi Shujing and cursed. He got up and walked into the bathroom. He turned on the shower and splashed cold water on his body. On the other side, Shi Shujing was not having a good time either. She was anxious and uneasy, as if there were 1,000 ants crawling on her and biting her heart. After a while, Qin Baiyuan came out, and in the darkness his entire body was filled with a murderous aura. Shi Shujing secretly took a look. His hair was wet and he had just taken a shower. Didn't he already take a shower? Why did he still take a shower? Could it be because... That guess made Shi Shujing's face burn even more, and even her ears turned red. Wasn't Qin Baiyuan the most disgusted with her? How could he have a reaction to her? She must be thinking too much. However, taking a shower in the middle of the night was too tempting, and it was inevitable that she would make that guess. In the deepest part of her heart, she naturally hoped that his body would have feelings for her. That was something that a married couple had to do. Moreover, she really wanted to be pregnant with his child. With complicated feelings, the two of them slept in the same room for the first time when they were awake, and neither of them slept well. However, the next day Qin Baiyuan caught a cold. From the moment he opened his eyes in the morning, his nose did not feel right and it was stuffed. Chapter 54. Qin Baiyuan sniffed and curled his lips in disgust at the smell. But in fact he didn't hate Shi Shujing so much. The fragrance of her flowers was much more comfortable than the pungent perfume. It was fresh and elegant. Of course he would never admit it. In short, everything about her made him sick. At dawn, Qin Baiyuan woke up and was no longer as muddle-headed as he was last night. He didn't know how many men had slept with a woman like her. He felt disgusted even if she came to him. Thinking of this, Qin Baiyuan was no longer so confused and regained his senses. His nose was not comfortable all the way and he didn't have much strength. But it was the first day of his return, so he had to perform well, so he forced himself to go to work. As soon as he entered the office, he saw Su Zhixian. She was like an ant on a hot pan and hurried to greet him. What happened last night? What do you mean what happened? Qin Baiyuan was not in the mood to deal with her. He put down his briefcase and threw himself into the leather chair. Why are you and Shi Shujing together? Didn't you say you would come to me last night? Her voice was very sharp when she was anxious. Qin Baiyuan's nerves were hurt by her and he closed his eyes. I still have to work. You go back first. I won't. If you don't explain it to me, I won't leave. Su Zhixian was determined to ask for an explanation, as if she was his wife and Shi Shujing was a wild woman. Qin Baiyuan had countless women outside. She was jealous of them but she could tolerate them. She couldn't stand him being with Shi Shujing. Even if he kept saying that he hated Shi Shujing, she was still Mrs. Qin. Who knew what would happen in the future? This had always been a worry for Su Zhixian. She was annoyed when she thought about it. What explanation do you want? Qin Baiyuan frowned. He was always gentle but now he was obviously unhappy. My father came back yesterday and forced me to stay at home. Are you satisfied with this explanation? She was stunned. You mean, you did it because of your father? The man raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Otherwise, do you think I want to stay with her? Su Zhixian did not make a sound but she was still angry and unwilling. However, her emotions were not as agitated as before. She curled her lips. So, you were forced? Your father left you at home because of her? Does he think that you two will be together? I don't know. Qin Baiyuan was upset. Who knows what he's thinking? Seeing this, Su Zhixian thought for a while, but she was still a little worried. Honey, you can't go on like this. You can't stay at home every day. Of course not. I'd rather die than face that damned woman every day. Qin Baiyuan gnashed his teeth and his face turned livid. Su Zhixian was afraid that he would be angry, so she sat on his lap and wrapped her arms around his neck to comfort him. All right, don't be angry. It's not worth it to hurt your health because of her, but we still have to think of a way. We can't drag it any longer. He looked at her calmly. What good idea do you have? Su Zhixian hesitated for a while and deliberately pretended to be hesitant. It's not that there is no way, but, the man could not stand it. Say it. She said immediately. The company is working on a project for Dynasty Real Estate. I'm very familiar with Mr. Huang, and he seems to be quite interested in Shi Shujing. Shi Shujing will be in charge of receiving him in 2 days. I'll be there too as long as I put a little bit of Shi Shujing's wine. Ah! Before Su Zhixian could finish her words, she screamed and her face turned pale. Her wrist was gripped tightly by Qin Baiyuan. She struggled. What are you doing? You're hurting me. Qin Baiyuan's eyes were sharp with dissatisfaction. How can you have such a despicable idea? I'm thinking for your sake. I want you to get rid of her as soon as possible. Su Zhixian thought that he would agree, but she did not expect that he would be so fierce to her. She felt very wronged and felt uneasy under his cold eyes. However, the man did not change his attitude because of this. Chapter 55. Seeing that Qin Baiyuan began to defend Shi Shujing, Su Zhixian was unhappy on the spot. How is it dirty? Shi Shujing has always been such a casual woman. Maybe she can't wait for me to send her to Xiao Huang's bed. She has settled so many difficult projects before. She must have used this kind of method. Do you think she is as noble as she appears on the surface? The man's expression was still very cold. You don't need to comment on what kind of person she is. In short, she is my Qin Baiyuan's wife. I won't allow you to treat her like this. Su Zhixian was very hurt. Her eyes instantly turned red as if she had suffered a great grievance. I have the intention to help you and you still treat me like this? Yes. She is your wife and I am a bad woman. You and her can grow old together. Don't look for me anymore. She broke free from his embrace and left angrily with red eyes. Qin Baiyuan was still angry and clenched his fists. He also didn't understand why he had to protect Shi Shujing. After all, what Su Zhixian said was also a solution. However, he was a man. He couldn't use such despicable methods on a woman. No matter how much he hated Shi Shujing, she was still his wife in name. No matter how indecent the woman behind her was, he couldn't do such a heartless thing. Just as Qin Baiyuan was getting angry, the secretary's voice came from the internal line. General Manager, the chairman wants you to go to his office. Got it. Zhu. Qin Baiyuan sneezed a few times in a row. He wiped his nose, tidied up his clothes and went out. As soon as he entered the office, he saw Shi Shujing beside Qin Yuning. The two of them were chatting. Qin Yuning's expression was very happy, like a loving elder. Shi Shujing turned her head and met Qin Baiyuan's eyes. Thinking of the way he looked at her last night, she couldn't help but blush as if she had blushed. Her heartbeat sped up uncontrollably. She knew that she was imagining things. There were so many women around Qin Baiyuan. It was impossible for him to have that kind of thought about her. Even if he did, it was just a man's physical instinct. It couldn't represent anything. Thinking of this, her wildly beating heart calmed down a little. However, Qin Baiyuan knitted his brows. As soon as he saw Shi Shujing's calm and unperturbed appearance, he couldn't help but get angry. He had caught a cold because he had showered her with cold water last night. Today he had quarreled with Su Jixin because of her. This woman was simply a jinx. She was his nemesis. He had been glaring at Shi Shujing with a sour face the whole time and sat down opposite her. I called the two of you over to discuss the commemorative banquet next Tuesday. How are the preparations going? Qin Yuning first asked Qin Baiyuan, who replied unhappily. I don't know. Qin Yuning was not very happy when she heard that. You don't know? Didn't I ask you and Shujing to be in charge of this together? He looked at his father and pushed all the blame to him. Why didn't I take responsibility? But on the way to the hotel she suddenly went crazy and wanted to get out of the car. What could I have done? Qin Yuning's face darkened. What did you do to her? She has such a bad temper and she has your support. How would I dare? Qin Baiyuan's sarcastic tone made Qin Yuning furious. It was impossible for him to say a word to him calmly. Shi Shujing, who was at the side, couldn't stand it anymore and quickly became the peacemaker. Dad, it's my fault. I've already contacted the hotel. There's no problem. I'll go to the scene after work today. As soon as she spoke, she suffered. Qin Baiyuan immediately glared at her. Shut up. You don't need to pretend to be a good person. On the surface you act one way but behind my back you snitch. Shi Shujing, you're really capable. In the face of his accusations, Shi Shujing couldn't defend himself. He didn't intend to defend himself. However, it was obvious that Qin Yuning was still standing on Shi Shujing's side. You're the one who doesn't live up to expectations and you still have the face to blame Shujing? The memorial banquet is a matter between the two of you. Why did you throw it to Shujing? Don't you have any responsibility as a man? When he saw his father scolding him, Qin Baiyuan became even angrier. I said I wouldn't do it but you insisted on doing it. What does it have to do with me? She wants to do it, then do it. In any case, she's the most capable and proactive. I can't compare to her. Qin Yuning shook his head. He wondered how he had given birth to such an obedient and ruthless son. He hated iron for not becoming steel, and his old life was about to be angered to death by him. I can't be bothered to argue with you. In short, in the days before the banquet, you better behave yourself. Don't cause any more scandals or else I won't forgive you. Qin Baiyuan indifferently turned his face to the side, leaving Shi Shujing with the side of his face. The corners of his mouth curled into a mocking sneer full of contempt. Contempt for her, contempt for this marriage. Perhaps, to him, everything was like a ridiculous farce, but Shi Shujing wholeheartedly gave everything he had. Following that, Shi Shujing followed Qin Yuning's arrangements and went to the hotel with Qin Baiyuan after work. On the way he kept sneezing. He controlled the steering wheel with one hand and wiped his nose with a tissue with the other. His nose was red and his eyes were also red. She didn't want to invite a rebuff but she couldn't help but ask. Do you have a cold? Sure enough, Qin Baiyuan replied coldly. None of your business. If it weren't for her, he wouldn't have taken a cold shower in the middle of winter and caught a cold. She still had the face to ask him as if nothing had happened. Damn woman, she was putting on an act. Although his attitude wasn't good, Shi Shujing really seemed to be uncomfortable seeing him like this. There's a pharmacy in front, do you want to? In Qin Baiyuan's eyes, all her good intentions were just an act. There's no need for you to pretend. Shi Shujing gave up. He didn't know what was good for him so he deserved to be sick. However, if he drove like this, it's very dangerous to drive with one hand. Let's change seats. Qin Baiyuan sneezed a few times. The red light turned red and he stopped the car. He frowned and glared at Shi Shujing while covering his nose with a tissue. Thinking that it was indeed not safe, Qin Baiyuan was willing to give up. Be careful, you can't afford to pay for it if you damage it. The two of them got out of the car together. Little did they know that Si Wenqin's car was next door. He happened to look up from his laptop and saw Shi Shujing's figure. However, she was not alone. Qin Baiyuan also got out of the car. In just a few seconds, Si Wenqin found that he missed Shi Shujing very much. His heart was touched by her beautiful figure. He kept looking at her car until the green light turned green and she drove into another lane. Si Wenqin made a phone call to the magazine. I'm free tomorrow. Shi Shujing and Qin Baiyuan arrived at the hotel, and a beautiful female manager received them. From the beginning, Shi Shujing noticed that there was something unusual between them. The female manager only had eyes for Qin Baiyuan. They talked and laughed and both treated Shi Shujing as heir. She asked about the venue, but she was completely ignored as if she didn't exist at all. Shi Shujing must be uncomfortable in her heart, but after all, this was their memorial banquet. As his wife, she couldn't show jealousy, which would only make herself more embarrassed. The acid in her stomach kept fermenting. Shi Shujing couldn't stand it anymore and went to the bathroom. When she came out and passed the corner of the corridor, she saw Qin Baiyuan pressing the female manager against the wall, with one hand on the wall and his face almost touching her lips. Shi Shujing's eyes were stinging, and there was an uncontrollable anger. Her feet seemed to be glued to the same place and she couldn't move a step. When Qin Baiyuan kissed the female manager's ear and whispered sweet words, he looked at Shi Shujing, beautiful and arrogant, like a cruel devil. On the way back, Qin Baiyuan kept sneezing, and Shi Shujing didn't talk to him, with a gloomy face and tightly pursed lips. Do you have any more paper? Shi Shujing? Did you hear me? Are you deaf? Qin Baiyuan covered his nose and felt very uncomfortable, but his tone was not polite at all. I don't know. You can ask Miss Lin. Shi Shujing replied coldly. Miss Lin was the female manager just now. She forgot her name, but her charming laughter kept echoing in her mind. She felt that Miss Lin was no different from those prostitutes, with no professionalism at all. Are you mocking me? Qin Baiyuan sneered and suddenly narrowed his eyes. Are you jealous? Why should I be jealous? Shi Shujing went against his conscience. I know your character, but Dad just emphasized this afternoon that you should behave. If he knows that you hooked up with the staff of the hotel, I don't know how he will reprimand you. Don't accuse me of snitching again. Qin Baiyuan snorted coldly. As long as you don't snitch, how can he know? Her attitude was very cold. There is no wall in the world that has ears. As long as you do it, he will definitely know. Don't use my dad to pressure me. If I really want to do something, he won't be able to stop me. Qin Baiyuan was very arrogant at this moment. Even though his nose was red and he looked very embarrassed, he was not weak at all. He was very arrogant. He can use the family property to threaten me to marry you, but he can't control my life. I'll do whatever I want to you. Just bear with it. When they returned home, Yin Jingqi was in the living room and said to Qin Baiyuan with a smile. I'm back and I've just prepared dinner. I don't want to eat. Qin Baiyuan's face darkened. It was as if someone owed him a few $100 million. He took big strides and didn't stop at all. He was furious. Yin Jingqi on the sofa was confused. I made soup. I have no appetite. The man directly rushed upstairs, full of anger. Yin Jingqi frowned and looked at Shi Shujing, who was following behind. She was angry at the sight of Shi Shujing acting like a little wife. This woman must have done something to anger her son, but she still pretended to be wronged. It was so disgusting. She asked calmly. What's wrong with him? He caught a cold. Not feeling well, right? Shi Shujing replied calmly. However, Yin Jingqi was angry as soon as she heard that. In fact, she was angry at the sight of Shi Shujing. He caught a cold, but you still let him drive you around? Shi Shujing, what kind of wife are you? Don't you know how to take care of your husband? Seeing that her mother-in-law kept finding fault, Shi Shujing was also a little angry. He is an adult and he can take care of himself. Especially, he didn't need her to take care of him, and she didn't want to make trouble for herself. Yin Jingqi was very angry. Go and make him ginger tea. Shi Shujing was still thinking about the intimate scene between Qin Baiyuan and manager Lin. He felt uncomfortable and a little emotional. Chapter 56. You dare to talk back to me? Yin Jingqi opened her eyes wide, with an unbelievable look, and was so angry that she turned her eyes. What? Now that Yuning is back, someone will support you. I can't call you, can I? Shi Shujing doesn't make a sound. Since her mother-in-law thinks so, it's useless to explain. It's just more disgusting. If she denies it, Yin Jingqi will think that she is quibbling and angry. But she is silent, and Yin Jingqi thinks that she is despising herself, and she is also very angry. At this end, Yin Jingqi really looks at her more and more unpleasing to the eye. She points to her nose and scolds. Sure, Shujing, you have to figure it out. I'm the mistress of this family. Do what I tell you to do. Do you understand? That arrogant and domineering momentum is the same as that of Qin Baiyuan. Sure, Shujing thinks, no wonder that like mother like son they are the same. She doesn't bother to quarrel with them. Good. I'll make it. Sure, Shujing goes into the kitchen, cuts a few pieces of ginger and boils water. Yin Jingqi has been complaining that she dawdles and deliberately wants her baby son to suffer. Sure, Shujing doesn't say anything. Anyway, it's always been like this. It's boring to argue with barbarians. Usually, she doesn't regard her as a daughter-in-law, but if she is a little incompetent, she will teach her a lesson with the high hat of her daughter-in-law. It seems that she has committed some unforgivable crime. Finally, after making the ginger tea, Sure Shujing returns to the room. Qin Baiyuan has just taken a bath, and his hair is still wet. He glances at her, and his eyes are extremely contemptuous. Then he wipes his hair with a towel and picks up his shirt. She comes in with ginger tea. Mom knows you have a cold and asked me to make ginger tea. However, Qin Baiyuan still has that attitude. It's none of your business that I have a cold. Are you addicted to snitching? For a split second, Sure Shujing felt that it was tiring to talk to him. However, she sighed inwardly and decided to forget about it. She was too lazy to argue with him. She's worried about you. Drink it while it's hot. The man finally looked over and sneered. Are you that kind? Was it poisoned or something else? Was she as despicable as he said? Sure Shujing's face darkened. He didn't even want to talk to him. I'm not that bored. Qin Baiyuan didn't know if he was used to getting along with her in this way. Anyway, he couldn't say anything nice at all. Who knows? Haven't you been scheming to conceive my child? It's not like a woman like you can't do things like using drugs. Sure Shujing placed the ginger tea on the table and didn't say anything. Qin Baiyuan had already dressed up and put on his watch, but Sure Shujing still couldn't help himself. You're going out? He ignored her. She frowned. Dad said to let you stay at home for this period of time. Facing you at home. Qin Baiyuan gave her a cold look. Just last night was torture for me. Do you want me to die? Sure Shujing, do you know that I feel disgusted just by looking at you? Wherever you are, it's hell. It's as if even the air is turbid. If it were you, would you be willing to stay in hell for a second longer? His words were always hurtful. He picked the worst words and didn't consider whether she could take it. If he considered, he would consider the severity of the hurt. The more upset she was, the happier he was. He was a devil. Achoo, achoo. Qin Baiyuan sneezed a few more times and he seemed to be mumbling something. Chicks. Perhaps he felt that it was bad luck. He shook his head and then left angrily. Only Sure Shujing was left alone in the empty room. The steam from the ginger tea gradually dissipated. The tea cooled down after he left. Later, Gao Zhuqing called. Sure Shujing was not in a good mood. He chatted with her absent-mindedly for a while. Gao Zhuqing noticed her tone. What's wrong with you today? You don't have any energy to speak. Did you get abused by that bastard Qin Baiyuan again? No. I've been to a few places today. I'm a little tired. Sure Shujing pinched his eyebrows and looked at himself in the mirror. He had a plain face. His facial features were actually delicate and not ugly. However, his eyes and skin were very dull and lacked spirit. He was only in his 20s, but he looked as old as a man in his 30s or 40s. In the past few years of marriage, his heart had been tortured to an old age. Gao Zhuqing said on the other side of the phone. Let's have dinner together tomorrow? Come to the company to pick me up. However, Sure Shujing didn't have much energy. I'm very busy this week. I might not be free. However, Gao Zhuqing was often that kind of person. You have to squeeze some time even if you don't have time. Otherwise, I'll cut the kitten's rations and starve it into a bag of bones. Sure Shujing smiled. You actually used a cat to threaten me. Isn't it too inhumane? Didn't I say it earlier? My conscience was eaten by dogs. I can do anything. That's it. I'll be there before 6 o'clock. Gao Zhuqing was a girl full of positive energy and vitality. Sure Shujing's mood was slightly infected and she didn't feel so sorry for herself. No matter what, life had to go on. She didn't want to make herself more miserable. Ocean Group. The female secretary worked overtime until 11 o'clock. She heard some noise in the president's office. Thinking that Si Wenchen was coming out, she hurriedly tidied her hair and put on lipstick. As soon as the tall figure came out, she hurriedly stood up and bowed respectfully. "Bossy." Her eyes kept glancing at his strong chest, and her heart was full of fanciful thoughts. She had worked for him for 2 months and had always had a crush on him. Even at night, she often dreamed of him. A man like Boss C was the dream of all women. He was high and unreachable. He made people surrender to him, but they couldn't help but fall for him. She always fantasized about the miracle of a president falling in love with a young secretary in an idol drama. However, Si Wenchen was very cold and didn't have any women around him, which disappointed her. Si Wenchen said in a low voice, "Cancel all the meetings and social engagements after 6 o'clock tomorrow." "Okay. Do you have an appointment?" As soon as the words came out, the female secretary realized that she had said too much and hurriedly stopped. Si Wenchen glanced at her coldly and strode away. The female secretary breathed a sigh of relief. Just now she was so scared that she almost fainted. Si Wenchen was not a bad-tempered boss, but his aura was too strong. It was inevitable that she felt pressured. The next day, after work, Shi Shujing went to the magazine office where Gao Zhuqing worked, which was in a building not far from her company. He went up to the 15th floor and told the front desk that he wanted to see Gao Zhuqing. The beauty at the front desk was busy touching up her makeup. "Are you sure, Shujing? Gao Zhuqing is waiting for you in the A9 conference room. I'll take you there." She nodded. "Thank you." It was a small conference room with warm lighting and low-key but luxurious furniture. It could be seen that it was carefully decorated for an interview with an important VIP. Gao Zhuqing was looking at some documents while touching up her makeup. When Shi Shujing called her, Gao Zhuqing was pleasantly surprised. "You're here." Shi Shujing walked over. "Aren't we going to have dinner together tonight? You still need to work?" She nodded. "Yes. There's an important interview." Seeing this, Shi Shujing didn't want to disturb others. "Then you go ahead with your work. I'll go have dinner by myself. Do you want me to pack some food for you?" She didn't expect Gao Zhuqing to pull her back. "Don't go. We're going to interview Mr. C later. You have to be there." Shi Shujing immediately understood that the meal was just an excuse from Gao Zhuqing. After the makeup artist walked away, she asked in a low voice, "What? You can interview him, but why did you call me here?" Gao Zhuqing also lowered her voice. "Of course you have to come." Beside her, Shi Shujing felt that she was being schemed against. "Don't tell me you're trying to play matchmaker with me again. Stop it, okay? I'm not helping you because you're setting me up." Gao Zhuqing snorted. "He helped me so much I have to do him a favor to repay him. You're not a fool. He agreed to the interview because of you. He'll be happier if you're there. I've never seen you betray your teammates like this." Shi Shujing shook her head speechlessly. "I don't have time to play with you. I'm leaving now." "Hey, don't go. I'm a little afraid of him. I'll be at ease if you're there." Shi Shujing, Gao Zhuqing stopped her. While they were pulling each other, Shi Shujing saw Si Wenchen walking in. Dressed in a well-ironed suit, he looked elegant and capable. He was not arrogant at all. But his aura made others look up to him unconsciously. He was born to be an extraordinary man. He nodded at her when their eyes met. Shi Shujing felt flustered for no reason. She bit her lips and forced a smile. Gao Zhuqing whispered in her ear, "Don't go." Then she walked up to him. Shi Shujing actually wanted to leave. But if she left now, she was afraid that Si Wenchen would see that she was avoiding him, as if she cared about him a lot. It was true that she had an instinct to avoid him the moment she saw him. But she had to endure it and not let him see it. After all, if possible, they still wanted to cooperate in the future. She thought for a moment. Since she was here, she might as well stay. So she chose a seat further away. The female staff kept whispering excitedly around them. They were so excited that their faces were red, as if they were infatuated with him. Obviously, the beautiful receptionist dressed up for him. When she was pouring water, her eyes were fixed on Si Wenchen. She even spilled some water. She was so scared that she hurriedly apologized. But Si Wenchen did not care. He mouthed, "It's okay." His indifference and arrogance were in his bones. But after interacting with him, Shi Shujing felt that he was actually quite good-tempered. After all, he had been in the UK for many years and was very gentlemanly. It was no wonder that women were infatuated with him. A man with a successful career was attractive to begin with. What's more, apart from those external advantages, Si Wenchen himself also had his own halo. He was the kind of man who was extremely handsome, and it was hard to pick out any flaws. If one had to find fault with him, one could only say that he was too perfect. He was so perfect that he did not look like a real person. Chapter 57. Si Wenxin nodded, indicating that she could start. Gao Zhuqing asked the first question. Your background has always been a mystery. May I ask if your family provided any help when you founded the Ocean Group, or did you do it alone? I haven't asked for a penny from my family since high school. Si Wenxin's voice was deep and pleasant, with a slight British accent. His tone was very calm, especially the elegant kind of gentleman. My first bucket of gold was in the second year of high school. I split up some small companies and carried out heavy mergers and acquisitions. The amount was about 1 million pounds. Shi Shujing secretly exclaimed in her heart. The second year of high school was about 15 or 16 years old. She didn't know anything and only thought about how to attract Qin Baiyuan's attention. But he had already earned more than 10 million. Even Qin Baiyuan, who was smart, went to school every day and played basketball at that age. He was far less far-sighted than Si Wenxin. Gao Zhuqing also praised him for this. Then what's the secret of your success? Success can't be replicated. If you're talking about the secret. Si Wenxin paused for a moment. His two slender legs were elegantly crossed, occupying a large space. Other than talent, it's also accurate vision. I'm a person who has always been very accurate. As long as it's something I want, I will immediately attack until I get it. From a distance, he looked at Shi Shujing and narrowed his cold and narrow eyes. He didn't know if she did it intentionally or unintentionally, but she happened to lower her head and avoided his gaze. Gao Zhuqing asked a few more questions about work before changing the topic. Your identity has always been very mysterious. I believe the public is also very curious about your personal life. May I ask a few questions? Si Wenxin didn't say anything, which was a tacit agreement. Are you married? No. Girlfriend? Not either. Gao Zhuqing was secretly happy. Then, what kind of woman can attract you? Si Wenxin casually held onto the sofa with one hand and supported his chin with the other. This question made him pause for a moment. He touched his lips and pondered. Shi Shujing complained that Gao Zhuqing didn't know what was important. That day, he had emphasized to her several times that she couldn't ask questions outside of work. Why did he have to inquire about people? It was not those messy magazines. What was the point of gossiping? Her heart was in her throat, afraid that Si Wenxin would be unhappy. She held her breath, feeling anxious every second. The female employees were all swallowing their saliva, anxiously waiting for the answer. Si Wenxin seemed to chuckle softly, but it was very faint and very inconspicuous. He only answered after a while. I didn't say that I have a preference for a certain type. If you're talking about women that attract me, he looked at Shi Shujing and this time their eyes met. Her heart seemed to have been hit by something and it was filled with nervousness. Her palms were sweaty. She always felt that his gaze was very deep, as if there was some kind of magic that could draw her in, numb her nerves, and make her very flustered and unable to think too much. A woman who is mentally independent, financially independent, and easy to get along with will be more to my liking. This personal question, Gao Zhuqing also knew that she was a little too bold. She was not a brainless person, and she knew that she should stop before going too far. After that, she didn't ask more personal questions. After the interview, Si Wenxin left. Shi Shujing breathed a sigh of relief. Gao Zhuqing was so excited that her eyes were shining. Fortunately, you were there. His cooperation was too high. Today's interview was quite successful. You think it was a success? My soul was almost scared out of my body. Shi Shujing was still in shock and looked at her speechlessly. Didn't I tell you not to inquire about that? How dare you ask? I can only guarantee the sales of the magazine if there are selling points. The few questions just now are enough to sell tens of thousands of copies. Gao Zhuqing was very proud. Besides, I think he was quite willing to answer them. Shi Shujing didn't have time to talk nonsense with her. Don't talk nonsense. Let's go eat. I'm hungry. However, Gao Zhuqing looked as if she suddenly thought of something. Not tonight. There will be a celebration party in a while. I'm the protagonist, so I must attend. If you are not busy, you can go to my apartment to feed the cat. I was in a hurry today and forgot to add cat food. If I go back late, I'm afraid it will starve to death. Shi Shujing made a mental note of this. This time, Gao Zhuqing had blacklisted her. Anyway, he would not help her in the future. At noon, her car was sent for maintenance. In the afternoon, she was in a hurry and had no time to pick up her car. Shi Shujing had to stand at the intersection to stop a taxi. At this time, a black car stopped in front of her. The rear window rolled down, and Si Wenxin's elegant and beautiful side profile appeared. He was noble and handsome. She was stunned for a moment. Bossy. The man said calmly. I'll send you. She was anxious and quickly declined. No need. I can take a taxi myself. Besides, before she could finish, Si Wenqin saw that she was reluctant to get into the car. He pushed the door open, grabbed her hand and led her into the car. Shi Shujing was so stunned that she could not react at all. By the way, how much did he think he was? Was she familiar with him? They were so familiar that they looked like old friends. He did not stand on ceremony and pulled her into the car just like that. It was not until they sat in the car that Shi Shujing reacted. Before she could hesitate, Si Wenqin said, "Where to?" She was stunned. Finally, she silently accepted and told him an address. Jiashang International Apartment. There was a lot of space in the car. But because Si Wenqin was tall and took up a lot of space, and his presence was too strong, Shi Shujing still felt that there was not enough space. She felt a little suffocated, as if it was stuffy and hot and it was not easy to breathe. She looked down at her fingers for a while, and then cleared her throat to ease the atmosphere. Today's interview was very successful. Thank you. You helped Zhuqing a lot. This is very important to her. I don't care whether it's important to her or not. Si Wenqin said indifferently. Anyway, I'm selling a favor to you. As long as you are satisfied. He directly said, selling a favor. Did he mean that she needed to return it? This gave Shi Shujing a lot of pressure. She knew that there was no free lunch in the world. But she had been avoiding it. She comforted herself that this was just a small favor to him. She did not need to constantly think about how to repay him. But did he say this because he expected her to repay him? She hoped that he was just mentioning it casually. Because she did not want to return it and indeed could not afford it. Outside the window, the high-rise buildings and traffic lights flashed by from time to time. Shi Shujing did not speak until Si Wenqin suddenly asked. Quarreled with Xiao Qin? She did not understand what he meant. She opened her mouth in confusion. The man explained. You are not going home after work. Where are you going to spend the night? Si Wenqin had sent her home before, so he knew where she lived. Shi Shujing saw that he misunderstood and quickly explained. You misunderstood. I have a little stray cat at Gao Zhuqing's house. I am going to feed it cat food. The man raised his eyebrows when he heard this. Why don't you keep it at your own house? Xiao Qin does not like it? She nodded lightly and replied, N. He really does not like small animals. The most important thing was that Yin Jingqi would not allow her to keep small animals at home. And she could not tell this to Si Wenqin. After all, he was just an outsider. How could she always talk about these trivial family matters to others? The man listened and said in a flat tone. Really? I quite like it. Gao Zhuqing's apartment was not far from the magazine office, so they arrived soon. Shi Shujing wanted to turn around and say goodbye to Si Wenqin after getting out of the car, but he followed her. She looked at him with a confused face, not knowing what he was going to do. The man seemed to see the confusion in her eyes, so he took the initiative to say something. I will go up to see the cat. What kind of reason was this? Shi Shujing was a little resistant in her heart. This is Gao Zhuqing's house. I am afraid it is not very convenient. Si Wenqin took the lead and walked away. It is not inconvenient. I believe Miss Gao will be very happy. After all, I have helped her a lot. Who would take the initiative like this? Did he think this was his own house? Si Wenqin saw that she stood still and was a little hesitant, so he said, Manager Shi, let's go. Manager Shi, let's go. Let's talk about the project. This somewhat moved Shi Shujing. Even if it was a bait, she wanted to fight for one more chance, so she followed him. As soon as she opened the door, a small head popped out from the crack of the door and meowed at her. Shi Shujing picked it up and saw that the kitten was thinner than when she sent it. Its fur was gray, and the hair at the corners of its eyes was dirty and stuck together. She couldn't help feeling depressed. It was really like what Gao Zhuqing had promised, just not to raise it to death. She ignored Si Wenqin and quickly opened a can for the kitten. It was so hungry that it stuffed its whole face into the can. Shi Shujing frowned her two delicate eyebrows distressed. Eat slowly. If you are not full, there is still. Next, she went to the kitchen to wash her hands and made a cup of tea for Si Wenqin. When she came out, she realized that the living room was dirty and messy. She didn't know how long it had been since it was cleaned. Clothes and garbage were thrown everywhere. On the sofa where Si Wenqin was sitting, there was a pair of underwear that she didn't know if it was worn or not. Shi Shujing blushed and quickly put the underwear into the room. She said awkwardly as she cleaned up. I'm sorry. She is usually busy with work and doesn't have much time to clean up the house. Si Wenqin, on the other hand, looked like he was not surprised at all. It's okay. He didn't care and continued to drink his tea. When the kitten was full, it walked over and rubbed against his leg curiously. Shi Shujing was afraid that it would dirty his trousers, so she quickly took the kitten back. The man looked at it and seemed to be a little interested. "This is the stray cat you raised? What breed is it?" Being asked like this, Shi Shujing was a little embarrassed. She looked at the kitten and didn't know what breed it was. "Three flowers? Little yellow fox? I don't know. Anyway, it's a stray cat that I picked up on the road." Si Wenxin stretched out a finger and touched its little head. "I quite like cats." She happened to like cats too, so she couldn't help but gradually like him. "You are so caring." "Am I?" Si Wenxin withdrew his hand. "I'm not a caring person. I'm just very patient with the things I like." Hearing this, Shi Shujing was obviously stunned. The man was afraid that she would think too much, so he put down the teacup and looked around. Chapter 58. She also looked around and finally her eyes fell on his face. "You didn't have dinner?" "I came straight after work." Si Wenxin's beautiful lips curled up. "I thought meals were provided." Shi Shujing saw that it was already 7 o'clock and he felt embarrassed. "How about I treat you to dinner?" However, it was obvious that he had an ulterior motive. "I'm very tired after a whole day of meetings and I don't want to go out." This time, it was Shi Shujing's turn to be embarrassed. "You mean, to eat here?" He did not answer but asked, "Do you know how to cook?" Shi Shujing frowned and thought about it. "Yes, I do. However, I don't know if it suits your taste. Let's go out to eat. There is a good Chinese restaurant just outside." Obviously, Si Wenxin was not moved by this suggestion, and he made up his mind to stay here. "It's okay, I'll eat whatever you cook." Shi Shujing had no choice but to put down the kitten. "Then I'll go to the kitchen to see what ingredients there are." He opened the fridge. In addition to carbonated drinks, there was a carton of eggs, 2 yellow tomatoes, and a bag of dried noodles in the cabinet. There were a few boxes of instant noodles in the corner, but it was too unhealthy. Shi Shujing really did not want to treat people with instant noodles, so he went out to ask Si Wenxin, "Is tomato egg noodles okay?" He was still sitting on the sofa and it seemed that, yes. After all, he had done Gao Zhuqing a big favor and he treated him with noodles. Shi Shujing still felt that it was a little unreasonable and he could not help but say, "Just make do with it for today, and I'll treat you to a good meal in the future." Hearing this, his tone was a little excited. "You'll cook by yourself?" She nodded calmly. "Yes." Because this was just the most ordinary thing for Shi Shujing, and she did not think there was anything special about it. Si Wenxin's eyes lit up. "I'm looking forward to it." Shi Shujing was very efficient. He washed the tomatoes, cut them, boiled them in water, and beat the eggs. The tomatoes were cooked in 10 minutes. Gao Zhuqing, that lazy person, usually ordered takeout at home, so he didn't have much seasoning. Even though Shi Shujing was good at cooking, he couldn't make full use of it. The noodles he cooked were bland and watery, which was quite embarrassing. Therefore, when he brought the noodles out, he asked, "There seems to be chili sauce in the fridge. Do you want it?" The man looked at the 2 bowls of noodles in her hands. His eyes were bright, but his tone was calm. "No need." When he put it down, Shi Shujing took the opportunity to get up. "I'll go get some for you." The noodle soup was too light, so she was afraid that he wouldn't be able to eat it. However, as soon as she got up, Si Wenxin grabbed her wrist. Her fair skin was scalded by the heat of his palm. "I told you there's really no need." In fact, his strength was not heavy, but Shi Shujing still felt a strong sense of the man's strength. Her palms trembled and her fingertips were a little numb. Si Wenxin let go of her hand first and she felt a lump in her throat. Being in the same room with him was already uncomfortable enough, and after what happened just now, her scalp felt a little numb. Because he had emphasized it repeatedly, Shi Shujing had no choice but to stop. The dining table was messy. The two sat on the sofa and ate, each holding a bowl of noodles. Shi Shujing remembered that Si Wenxin ate very little at the Western restaurant last time, but now he had a big appetite. She really couldn't understand him. She took a small sip of the soup. It tasted bland and the tomatoes were not fresh. The taste was really not good, so she asked, "Does it taste okay?" The man ate as if he didn't have time to care about her. "Not bad." She thought he was just being polite. "I'll make do with it. I really don't have any ingredients at home." Si Wenxin finished the noodles in a few minutes. He didn't even waste a bite of the tomatoes. Shi Shujing was afraid that he didn't have enough to eat, so she hesitated for a few seconds and asked, "Do you still want to eat? I didn't eat much in this bowl." She still felt strange. After all, they were not familiar with each other. How could she let him eat the noodles in her bowl? But if she wanted to make it again, she really didn't have enough ingredients. Si Wenchen didn't seem to think so much and nodded. Thank you. Shi Shujing picked up more than half of the noodles for him. Anyway, she was also a person who paid attention to hygiene. When she ate the noodles, she ate it seriously and didn't spit in the noodles, so it shouldn't make him feel disgusted. The two finished eating at about the same time. The noodles were hot. After 2 bowls, Si Wenchen's indifferent face was enshrouded with a layer of red. There was a little sweat on his forehead and he became more lively. Shi Shujing handed him a piece of tissue. Seeing that his face was red as he ate, she felt for the first time that he was a little bit more down to earth. He was definitely handsome and arrogant, but he gave her the feeling that he was an otherworldly little dragon girl. Now he was like a human. Why did he use the word little dragon girl? In fact, she didn't know. But she felt that, in her heart, the kind of person who was not down to earth was as pure as the little dragon girl in the ancient tomb. Si Wenchen stretched his neck and pulled his tie with one hand, revealing a part of his Adam's apple. Shi Shujing always felt that a man pulling a tie was a very interesting action. When it was performed by Si Wenchen, his posture was even more charming. She couldn't move her eyes away from him for a second. Realizing that she was actually infatuated, she lowered her head in a panic, cleaned up the dishes and went to the kitchen to wash. After washing up, Si Wenchen was standing on the balcony smoking. In the wet night fog, the dim yellow street lights cast a long shadow of Si Wenchen. This man, even his back was so beautiful. Perhaps it was because of the warm lighting, his facial features looked softer than usual. The outline was clear and beautiful and he was gentle and lively. He held a cigarette in one hand and slowly exhaled smoke into the air. It was so elegant, yet so lonely, as if he was isolated from the world and isolated from another world that belonged only to him, Si Wenchen. When he turned his head, she bumped into a pair of deep black eyes. His eyes flashed with sharpness and coldness, and Shi Shujing couldn't help but feel a chill in her heart. It was as if her heart was being squeezed by a hand, causing her to tense up. Just a few steps away, she was so nervous that her heart was beating like a small drum. However, Si Wenchen's lips curled into a smile, and the coldness in his eyes faded. That smile was very shallow, a little indifferent and distant, but it wasn't the kind of smile that was fake. Shi Shujing couldn't really understand his eyes, but she could more or less feel his smile. She could tell when it was real and when it was fake. She walked over and in the orange light, there was a long shadow. Si Wenchen blew a ring of smoke at her and looked down at her. In the deepest part of his dark eyes, there was a very faint halo like a mist and it was misty. After Shi Shujing walked over, she looked at him calmly. Regarding the project, we've already re-established a team. They are all elites in the design world, and they have experience working in the world's top real estate companies. I've seen the latest plan. Although it's only a first draft, the standard is much higher than before. I believe it won't disappoint you. Okay. Si Wenchen lit up another cigarette and puffed out smoke. He didn't care much about the project. Blue Sky could afford to hire people, so the new plan naturally wouldn't be bad. Besides, he had many choices, and any one of them would be able to produce a satisfactory project. The reason why he waited patiently for Blue Sky's plan was purely to have more opportunities to interact with Shi Shujing. The man changed the topic. Was it inconvenient for you to answer the last time I called you? Shi Shujing didn't understand why he suddenly brought up this matter, so she didn't answer. He looked at her and his eyes flickered. Did I disturb you in Xiaoqin? Hearing this, Shi Shujing immediately shook his head. No. Seeing this, Si Wenchen looked relieved. That's good. If it affects the relationship between you and your wife, I can't absolve myself from the blame. It would have been better if he hadn't said this. As soon as he said this, Shi Shujing couldn't understand him. Not only her, but even Gao Zhuqing felt that he was interested in her. But sometimes he would be like just now with a look that said, "You're thinking too much." So, in the end, Shi Shujing really couldn't understand. Was she thinking too much or was Si Wenchen really interested in her? As she thought about it, she felt inexplicably irritated. She didn't want to think about it anymore, so she hurriedly found an excuse to leave. It's getting late. You're busy, so I won't delay you. Si Wenchen could hear that she wanted to distance herself from him, so he directly asked her to leave. But he slowly took a few puffs of his cigarette, looked at his watch and his nose opened and closed, spraying light smoke. No hurry, it's only 7 o'clock. Shi Shujing couldn't coexist with him, so she said. Then take your time, I'll go and bathe the kitten. After preparing the bathtub and shampoo for the animal bath, Shi Shujing grabbed the kitten and came over. Last time it was obedient and didn't move. Now it might be because it was familiar with the environment, plus it was full and had strength, so it scratched and struggled desperately, as if it was going to the guillotine. Shi Shujing held it with one hand and bathed with the other. It couldn't move at all, and the back of his hand was scratched and scratched. Be good. Don't move, hey? You. The bubble water splashed into her eyes, and she squinted for a long time before opening them. In embarrassment, she saw Si Wenxin leaning on the porch, looking at her calmly. Do you need help? No, I can take care of it myself. Shi Shujing tried to be brave, but she couldn't take care of the kitten by herself, and water splashed all over her. In the end, she had no choice but to hold the kitten's body and ask him for help awkwardly. If you're not in a hurry to go back, help me. Si Wenxin folded up his sleeves, walked over, and helped her hold the kitten. What's its name? This time, the kitten could no longer struggle and she could finally bathe it peacefully. I haven't named it yet. The man's faint voice came. How about a bookworm? Bookworm? Shi Shujing was a little speechless. Why did she feel that he seemed to be deliberately teasing her? When she was in school, her classmates liked to call her a bookworm. In fact, she didn't like this nickname at all, because this nickname basically represented this image, wearing black-rimmed glasses, always looking stiff. Moreover, her name itself had the word book in it. Was she sure that the bookworm's cat name did not deliberately overlap with her name? Shi Shujing couldn't understand him. She felt that even if it was a joke between friends, it was too disrespectful of him. Moreover, was she very familiar with him? How could he casually make some jokes that hurt people's self-esteem? Chapter 59. After bathing the kitten, Si Wenxin was finally willing to leave, and Shi Shujing sent him downstairs. The driver opened the door respectfully, and Si Wenxin sat in the car. He seemed to be in a good mood, and the corners of his mouth were slightly curved as he turned to ask her. Are you sure you don't need me to send you? Shi Shujing shook her head. No, it's too messy upstairs and I need to clean it up. When Gao Zhuqing comes back, I still have something to talk to her about. Si Wenxin could tell that this was an excuse, but he didn't want to push her too hard, so he didn't point it out. When they were about to start the car, Shi Shujing blurted out. Boss Si. When he looked at her, he hesitated and bit his lip, a little hesitant. There are some things that I have to make clear to you. You are just a potential client of Blue Sky, and I am very sincere in cooperating with you on the project. I am also very grateful that you helped Gao Zhuqing, but other than that, I don't want to be involved in any other relationship. I am already married and I love my husband very much, so I will not do anything to betray him. I don't want what happened tonight to happen again. This time, whether he was intentional or not, Shi Shujing felt that she had to make things clear to him. She couldn't continue to be unclear like this, absolutely not. Shi Shujing spoke righteously and she knew that he might think it was ridiculous. As strong as Si Wenxin was, she was just a small ant in front of him. It was ridiculous to bare her fangs and brandish her claws in front of him. But no matter how he looked at her, she still insisted on making her attitude clear. She loved Qin Baiyuan. These words stung Si Wenxin's nerves, and his originally happy mood was covered with a layer of haze. Shi Shujing saw that he was expressionless, tightly pursing his lips and not answering, and he was on tenterhooks. Did you hear what I said? What happened tonight was not a coincidence. I have wanted to do this for a long time. Si Wenxin looked ahead. The light from the other side made his eyes bright and sharp. There was a kind of determination in him that he was determined to win. I promise you this won't be the last time. Since she had made it clear, he was not afraid to make it clear to her. This was also good. In the future, if he wanted to do something, he could boldly do it without hesitation. Panic spread from Shi Shujing's limbs and bones to her heart. Her lips instantly turned pale, and her face lost all its color. Every word that came out of Si Wenxin's mouth was like a death sentence to her. She was very scared. Rest well, see you next time. After Si Wenxin finished speaking, he smiled at her calmly and gently, then he rolled up the window and disappeared from her sight. Shi Shujing's little face was still pale, and he didn't come back to his senses for a long time. She doesn't notice that in the flashy red Qian sports car, Qin Baiyuan's face is livid, and his hands are about to break the steering wheel. In the past few days, Qin Baiyuan was in a bad mood because of Shi Shujing's matter. It was rare for him to get rid of her and Qin Yuning's shackles, so he quickly hooked up with a mixed-race female model. After drinking at a nearby bar, he was about to bring his new lover back to the hotel. Who knew that as soon as he got in the car, He would see the woman he hated come out of a building with another man, Mr. C. Qin Baiyuan had seen him send her home before, and Yin Jingshi had also shown him their intimate photos, but it was not as shocking as seeing it with his own eyes. The two of them walked out one after the other, separated by a distance and looked very unfamiliar, but Qin Baiyuan believed that this was called trying to cover up. Looking at the woman's messy hair and Mr. C's proud face, it was not difficult to imagine what had just happened. Damn it. She actually dared to put a hat on him behind his back. Qin Baiyuan's anger soared, and his fingers gripping the steering wheel made a gee sound. He was so angry that his whole face turned green, and the veins on his forehead were protruding. The beautiful female model is also slightly drunk, and half of her body is leaning softly on him, acting coquettishly. Honey, why don't you start the car? Hurry up. I can't wait. In the end, Qin Baiyuan couldn't hold back and called Shi Shujing. He saw her holding the phone, hesitated for a long time and reluctantly picked up. Where are you? The man's tone is gloomy. Just by listening to his voice, Shi Shujing can imagine the person on the other side of the phone gritting his teeth. He is a little annoyed and replied impatiently. Friend's house. He asked knowing the answer. Which friend? Shi Shujing doesn't know the situation on his side. You don't know? Which friend? He interrogated her again. Shi Shujing is very strange. Since when does he care so much about her? Gao Zhuqing. She heard a voice on the other side of the phone that can make one's skin crawl. Honey, who are you calling? I miss you. Shi Shujing feels nauseous. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. He directly hangs up. Since he's with another woman, why is he looking for her? Beep beep beep. Hey. Damn woman, how dare you hang up on me? Qin Baiyuan is about to go crazy. He unbuckles the seat belt and rushes out of the car. The female model's body tilts and falls on the seat. She doesn't know what happened and she keeps shouting anxiously. Honey, where are you going? Honey. After sending Si Wenxin off, Shi Shujing is about to go upstairs. Suddenly she is pulled from behind and her body is pulled around by inertia. She sees Qin Baiyuan's fierce face, like the black and white impermanence that drilled out of the ground to take her life. She is startled and her heart tightens. He looks so fierce. Did he see what happened just now? Qin Baiyuan now has the impulse to slap the woman who betrayed him. He tries hard to control the impulse and his whole body is trembling. Shi Shujing looked at his posture of seeking revenge and felt a little scared. Could it be that he saw the scene just now and deliberately called to test her? Why are you here? No matter how hard she tries to stay calm, her trembling voice still reveals her panic. He hates her even more when he sees her like this. Why can't I be here? What? Are you guilty? You didn't expect that I would ruin your plan? Realizing that he really saw it, Shi Shujing is scared. What? Mr. C and I just... Before she can finish, Qin Baiyuan roars angrily for fear of hearing her lie again. Even if she admits it, he doesn't want to see her ugly face when she lies. Don't tell me that you and he were just talking about the project and the two of you are innocent. If it's just for work, do you need to hide in Gao Zhuqing's house to deceive people? Shi Shujing, you're really good at keeping secrets. It's not the first time, right? But you didn't expect that I would still see it? Seeing that Qin Baiyuan is really angry, Shi Shujing is anxious and afraid. It's not what you think. He accepted an interview with Gao Zhuqing and I was there too, so he sent me here. However, Qin Baiyuan doesn't believe her nonsense at all. Really? Then why didn't he send you home? Why did he send you here? And even go upstairs with you? Not only did she put him in a bad light, but she is also full of lies. Qin Baiyuan sneered, but he increased the strength of his 5 fingers, almost breaking Shi Shujing's whole hand. She tried her best to bear with it, but the pain has exceeded the limit of her endurance. It hurts so much that she feels dizzy. You're afraid of being discovered by me, so you didn't dare to go to the hotel, and directly brought a wild man to Gao Zhuqing's house. Do you think that no one will know? You've been playing this trick all along? The more Qin Baiyuan says, the angrier he gets. The blood vessels in his body are almost about to explode, and his brain seems to be crazy, completely out of control, wanting to explode continuously. No wonder you can get so many male clients. I say, Shi Shujing, you're really capable. It's not like what you said. I didn't do anything with Mr. C. Shi Shujing is in so much pain that he keeps sucking in cold air. Let me go first. Listen to my explanation. He is so impulsive that he can't listen to anything. How are you going to explain that you're alone with a man in Gao Zhuqing's house? No wonder you often hang out with that woman, so it's just a cover. I told you she's not a good thing. She's just a pimp. You two sisters are in cahoots, and she has provided a lot of convenience for you, right? Sure, Shujing can only shake his head desperately, and at the same time he is struggling in pain. I didn't. It hurts. Let me go. Qin Baiyuan grabs her slender wrist with one hand and pulls her over. He stares at her eyes, lowers his voice, but he still can't help gritting his teeth. You've done it with him, haven't you? But answer me. I didn't. Sure, Shujing is in so much pain that his eyes are red, and his eyes are shining with tears as he begs. Let me go. Please. I didn't betray you. You're still so stubborn? The veins on Qin Baiyuan's forehead are bulging, and his hand is clenched into a fist, as if he is going to throw a punch at Sure Shujing's face at any time. Looking at her face that is almost twisted in pain, and listening to her begging, Qin Baiyuan is unmoved, but he becomes more and more exasperated. Speak. Did you guys do it? I'm asking you to answer me. Sure Shujing feels a wetness on her face, and it turns out that her tears are falling. What is more uncomfortable than the pain in her body is her heart, which is already riddled with holes. It should be numb from the pain, but it still feels like it's being torn apart. Qin Baiyuan's face, which is very close to her, is hideous and distorted like a devil. His low roar began to become vague and she can't hear it clearly. She gradually no longer feels afraid and instead, it's replaced by despair. Her whole person is falling into the darkness. When a person falls into despair, he can no longer feel the pain in his body. Sure Shujing opens her teary eyes and looks at him in despair, and her face is ashen. What do you want me to say? What do you want me to say? She smiles bitterly and tears flow into her mouth, and her mouth is filled with bitterness. The man looks at her coldly and is unmoved. Have you done it with Mr. C? So what if I have? So what if I haven't? Isn't this what you've been waiting for? Sure Shujing looks at him in despair. You said that as long as you can get the project, it doesn't matter even if I have to sacrifice my people. Didn't you say this yourself? Anyway, in your eyes, I'm just a burden. Do you care which man I've slept with? He suddenly choked and doesn't know how to answer. Chapter 60. Sure Shujing refused to admit it. Qin Baiyuan was angry at her hypocrisy, but when she said it herself, it was even more difficult for him to restrain his anger. Like a beast that had lost its mind, he pushed Sure Shujing against the wall and pushed her so hard that the air in her lungs almost came out. She blacked out and almost fainted. Her tears kept dripping down and turned into a helpless bitter smile. Do you mind? I used those methods that you think to get the clients. Since you don't like me, why do you care what methods I used? Care about you? Qin Baiyuan did not get angry but laughed. His breath was hot, but his fingers were cold as ice. He snorted. Sure Shujing, don't think too highly of yourself. Qin Baiyuan cared about this label very much, but he would never admit it and embarrass himself in front of Sure Shujing. Since she humiliated him, then he would return it double and humiliate her 10,000 times. You're right. As long as I can get the project, I don't care who you've done it with. Anyway, you're already so dirty. It doesn't matter if you've been F***ed by one man or several men. It's just as disgusting. I don't care what methods you use, but let me tell you, you're still my Mrs. Qin in name. When you do those shameful things, you better be careful. Don't ruin my reputation. Our Qin family can't afford to lose face like this. Her heart was cold. Seeing that he always blamed her but never reflected on himself, she felt inexplicably angry. You keep saying that I'm dirty, but how much better are you? It's you who fooled around with women all day long. Qin Baiyuan was so angry that he narrowed his eyes and gritted his teeth. What do you mean? Are you saying that you fooled around with those men to get back at me? Do you have the right to do that? You were the one who pestered me to marry you. I don't love you at all. It's none of your business which woman I want to do it with. No matter how I treat you, you deserve it. Do you think we're equal? What a joke. She listened to him in a daze. Opposite her, his face was ferocious. Who do you think you are? You think you're so great just because a man is willing to sleep with you? Now that you have someone to back you up, you dare to go against me? Stop dreaming, they just want to play with you. But I'm different from them. I don't even want to touch a single finger of yours because I think it's disgusting. I'm afraid of getting sick. Every cruel word he said was like a sharp knife stabbing into Sure Shujing's heart. She could hear her heart bleeding and a chill ran down her spine. It was ridiculous. He spent his days drinking and having sex with different women, but in the end he thought she was dirty. She had foolishly kept her innocence for him, but in the end she was accused of being a slut. Was there any more ridiculous joke in the world than this? Shi Shujing was very tired. Her whole body was aching and her head was dizzy. She was exhausted and had no strength left. Whatever you think. I don't care. What do you mean you don't care? Qin Baiyuan frowned. His right hand pinched her chin, forcing her to look at him with her red eyes. He kept exerting force as if he wanted to twist her chin off. Every word I said is correct. You can't deny it? Or do you not care about what I think? You only care about what Mr. C thinks? Is that true? She didn't even want to look at him. If you say so. Her half-dead look made Qin Baiyuan fly into a rage. You damned woman, Seeing that he was about to do something more violent to Shi Shujing, Gao Zhuqing suddenly rushed over. You bastard, you're bullying Shi Shujing again. Qin Baiyuan was caught off guard and was knocked away by Gao Zhuqing. He staggered a few steps and almost fell. Gao Zhuqing quickly supported Shi Shujing. Are you okay? She shook her head. Seeing her face full of tears, Gao Zhuqing was so distressed that he pointed at Qin Baiyuan and scolded him. Bullying a woman? Are you still a man? Qin Baiyuan also got angry when he saw Gao Zhuqing. This is a matter between us. It's none of your business. Shi Shujing's business is my business. I'm going to take care of it. Gao Zhuqing had a fiery temper and was eager to protect her child. She rushed in front of Qin Baiyuan and pushed him twice. Do you treat Shi Shujing as your wife? She's so good to you but you abuse her all day. Your conscience must be eaten by dogs. At this time, Qin Baiyuan was also full of anger. How dare you say that to me? Shi Shujing has been fooling around with other men behind my back more than once. Are you the one who instigated it? Seeing that Qin Baiyuan not only wronged Shi Shujing but also himself, Gao Zhuqing was so angry that he almost went crazy. Don't spout nonsense. Shujing is a good woman. She loves you wholeheartedly. Don't slander her. Wholeheartedly? Qin Baiyuan was furious. Do you think I'm blind? I saw her coming out of your house with that man. Another man? Could it be Si Wenxin? Gao Zhuqing didn't have time to think and fought back fiercely. So what? You fool around with other women every day and have never treated Shi Shujing as your wife. Why should she keep her chastity for you? Do you have the right? If Shi Shujing betrays you one day, you deserve it. You don't know how to cherish her. A cheap man like you will get sick sooner or later. It's your retribution to have sores on your head and pus under your feet. You. Qin Baiyuan couldn't win against Gao Zhuqing in an argument. Because she was a woman, he couldn't hit her. He was so angry that he clenched his fists tightly. What? Do you want to hit me? Come on. Anyway, a cheap man like you can do anything. Gao Zhuqing took a step forward and put his face close to her. Hit me. What? Don't you have the guts? Weren't you very powerful when you tortured Shi Shujing? Coward. However, Qin Baiyuan only clenched his fists and didn't respond. Gao Zhuqing became more and more arrogant. You don't want to hit me? Then get out of my house. I don't want you to dirty my place by standing here. You're good? Qin Baiyuan pointed at Gao Zhuqing's face fiercely. You two won't be happy for long. He pointed at Shi Shujing again. Shi Shujing, listen to me. I'll find the evidence of your betrayal and expose your true colors. Let's see if my father will still protect you then. Qin Baiyuan angrily got into the car and sped away. Gao Zhuqing helped Shi Shujing up the stairs. Along the way, she scolded Shi Shujing and felt sorry for her. It was as if she was the one who was being bullied. How many times have I advised you? There are so many men in the world. Why do you insist on that bastard? Is there something wrong with your eyes? Do you want me to take you to the ophthalmologist? It's been 3 years. Don't you know that Qin Baiyuan is a scumbag? Is there something wrong with your brain or your eyes? Shi Shujing sat on the sofa. His eyes were calm and he smiled bitterly. Is there anyone who knows him better than I do? That was why Gao Zhuqing couldn't understand. Since you know, why do you want to suffer? I don't know if the society is blind now. Good women are ruined by scumbags. So what if he is rich and has a good appearance? He is a scumbag if his character is not good. What do you like about him? I don't know. It's getting more and more unclear. Shi Shujing let out a long sigh. His haggard and pale face made people feel sorry for him. Gao Zhuqing had always treated her like this. He hated her for not living up to his expectations, mourned her misfortune, and was angry that she didn't strive hard. Sometimes he really wanted to knock her awake. Even if she was angry, it would still be white gas. She suddenly thought of something else. Forget it. Let's not talk about that scumbag. Boss C came up just now. You two even gave the kitten a bath? That's so loving. As soon as Gao Zhuqing talked about Si Wenchen, his unhappiness was swept away and he became excited. What else did you do besides giving the kitten a bath? However, Shi Shujing didn't seem to be interested in this matter. Obviously, he hadn't recovered from what happened to Qin Baiyuan just now. I cooked a noodle. Gao Zhuqing raised his eyebrows. That's it. Shi Shujing shook his head and felt depressed. What else do you want? I'm married. As soon as she talked about her marriage, Gao Zhuqing rolled his eyes. Hey, your marriage is a name only. It's just a grave. Only you are so stubborn. If it were me, if that bastard Qin Baiyuan finds one, I'll find two. Let's see who can beat the other. Hearing this, Shi Shujing just shook his head with a wry smile. You'll understand when you get married. You can't be impulsive. If I do that, won't I become the second Qin Baiyuan? Don't care about him. Anyway, he won't let you have an easy time. Don't let him have an easy time. Just because he has some stinky money, he acts like he has a lot of money. If he doesn't treat you as a human, you can be with Boss C and show him what a real man is. Gao Zhuqing couldn't hold back his chatterbox once he started talking. He was so excited that his eyebrows danced. Just now when I was eating, I kept thinking about the two of you. Didn't I ask Boss C about the type of woman he likes? He was talking about you. Seeing this, Shi Shujing looked at him calmly. You're thinking too much. Seeing that she didn't believe him, Gao Zhuqing walked over excitedly. I'm not thinking too much. He has been looking at you. Believe me, based on my years of dating experience, I can guarantee that he is interested in you. If I misunderstand, I'll cut off my head and let you kick it like a ball. Shi Shujing was angry and amused at the same time. What do I want your head for? When they arrived, Gao Zhuqing sat down and held Shi Shujing's small hands tightly. Anyway, what I mean is that he likes you. You have to seize the chance. However, Shi Shujing still shook his head. It doesn't matter whether he likes me or not. That's his business. It has nothing to do with me. Now she was not in the mood to think about Si Wenchen. Her mind was full of Qin Baiyuan and Qin Baiyuan. Whenever she thought of him, her heart would feel stifled. Gao Zhuqing was so anxious that he kept poking her head. Are you out of your mind? It's hard to find a rich husband like Si Wenchen. If it were any other woman, she would have taken the initiative to look for him. But you look as if it has nothing to do with you. The emperor is not anxious, but the eunuch is anxious. Hearing this, Shi Shujing wanted to laugh. You're a eunuch? You're still in the mood to joke? Gao Zhuqing was afraid that she would die of anger if he continued talking, so he kept shaking his head. Fine. You're not a fool. You know the reason. I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Think about it carefully. It seems that you'd better not go home tonight in case you get into a fight with that bastard. Chapter 61. Qin Baiyuan raced like crazy, scaring the young female model. She suddenly slammed on the brakes and her body rushed forward. She almost flew out and her face turned pale. Honey, what are you doing? Who is that woman? Why did you pester her for so long? Honey, are you not happy? Shut up. Don't mention that damned woman. Qin Baiyuan suddenly pounced on her like a hungry tiger, pressed her into the seat and squeezed himself on her. The female model was breathless from his kiss, but she still tried her best to respond, wrapping her arms around his neck. Qin Baiyuan released her lips and savagely bit her neck and shoulders to vent his anger. At the same time, he impatiently tore at her clothes. Shi Shujing, that damned woman, thought that she could be arrogant and ignore him just because she was with Mr. C? Did she really think that he cared about her? He had so many women around him, all of them prettier, more docile, and better figures than her. Who was she? How could she be so arrogant in front of him and even dare to put on a hat for him? He didn't care which man she slept with because in his eyes she was nothing. The collar of her clothes was torn, and a warm animal fragrance entered Qin Baiyuan's nose. It was supposed to be able to stimulate a man's appetite, but in his irritated mood, it was so pungent that it made him nauseous. For some reason he thought of the light fragrance on Shi Shujing's body. Qin Baiyuan was extremely irritated, and he let go of the female model. She looked at him in a daze and her lips were swollen and red from kisses, slightly opened, dissatisfied. Honey, why did you stop? Get out of the car. Is there something I didn't do well enough? Did I not take the initiative enough? Let's go back to the hotel. I brought very nice clothes, you will like them. I'm not in the mood today. The female model finally got this opportunity, so she was naturally unwilling and wanted to continue fighting for it. Honey, I told you to get out of the car. Qin Baiyuan roared angrily. His eyes were so fierce as if he wanted to cut her into pieces. The female model was so scared that she ran away. Qin Baiyuan was still angry. He punched the steering wheel hard and sped all the way home. Yin Jingqi was on the phone in the living room. Seeing her precious son come back with a sullen face, she hurriedly showed her concern. Qin Baiyuan's first sentence was a direct question. "Where's Shi Shujing? He called just now and said he wouldn't be coming back." "Damn it. Why are you so angry? Who provoked you this time?" "Well, isn't it that dead woman?" Qin Baiyuan angrily sat on the sofa, his face so gloomy that it could drip water. "I saw her coming out of a building with Mr. C tonight. Did you find any evidence?" "No. I only saw them coming out together." "Oh?" Yin Jingqi sat opposite him and calmly took a sip of tea. "She's been with Mr. C a lot recently. It's not surprising that you saw her. It's a pity that you didn't catch them in bed. I'm thinking if I can take a picture of them in bed, I can take the opportunity to threaten Mr. C so that he can only cooperate with our blue sky in the future." Qin Baiyuan was so annoyed that he didn't have time to think about that. His mind was full of the thought of Shi Shujing's betrayal, which was driving him crazy. "Mom, you said that that dead woman really did it with Mr. C? Isn't it obvious? I've said it before. What's there to doubt? I didn't expect her to be so bold. No matter what, she's my wife, Qin Baiyuan. How dare she betray me? She begged me to marry her, but now she accuses me of this." Qin Baiyuan gritted his teeth. "I really want to kill her." "Son, you're not jealous, are you?" "Jealous? For her? How is that possible? But I'm a man after all. I'm just angry." "Since you know what kind of person she is, why are you angry? Isn't it better for her to be fickle? As long as you get the evidence, you can get rid of her," Yin Jingqi said seriously. "The most important thing now is to calm down. Don't alert her and let her find out. It's not worth getting angry over a woman like that. Don't let her affect your mood." Qin Baiyuan closed his eyes and took a few deep breaths. After holding his breath for more than an hour, his chest was tight and he was panting. He was so uncomfortable that he was about to collapse from exhaustion. He pinched the space between his eyebrows and sighed silently with a tired look. "I don't want to be affected by her, but I have the dignity of a man. Which man can stand his wife's betrayal? I feel so useless. I've been humiliated by the woman I hate the most. I'm just angry. I understand what you're thinking, but at this critical moment, you have to be patient. She's a jinx, a disgrace to our Qin family and a burden to you. Don't ever treat her as your wife. That kind of fickle woman doesn't deserve you at all. Don't take it to heart, okay?" Qin Baiyuan didn't want to take it to heart, but what could he do? It was good that he was angry. Nothing could defeat his determination to divorce. As long as he got a divorce, he could get rid of that bitch completely. He would never let any emotion affect this matter. Now he had to be patient. After leaving Shi Shujing, Si Wenxin went to a bar. It was the busiest time on the bar street at this time. A group of friends came out to play, single men and women came out to watch the erotic dance performance. The bar was crowded. The music was loud and the lights were bright. Men and women twisted their bodies wildly in the middle of the dance floor. The air was full of the ambiguous smell of human flesh. As soon as Si Wenxin entered the bar, he immediately became the focus of the women's attention. A few brave ones clung to him and danced with him. Si Wenxin had always been disgusted by these coquettish women, but he was in a good mood today. He just avoided them and walked into the innermost part of the bar. A handsome man in a gray shirt was holding a woman in a leopard print skirt intimately. He said something to her ear which made her laugh all the time. When Si Wenxin sat opposite them, she was immediately stunned, and her eyes showed a strong sense of amazement. She was proud of the handsome man next to her, but compared with the man opposite her, he was still inferior. She had seen a lot of good-looking men, but none of them could compare with him. He was calm, arrogant, and masculine. Even in the dim light, he had a halo around him, shining brightly and firmly attracting her gaze. It shocked her to her soul and she couldn't help but open her mouth. The leopard print beauty looked at Si Wenxin with infatuation. Tang Jun smiled. If not for his brother, he really couldn't stand another man stealing his limelight. But then again, he was also an outstanding descendant of a rich family. Not to mention Flozen City, there were only a few who could be more outstanding than him in the whole world. So far, he only admitted that Si Wenxin was indeed a little more outstanding than him, just a little. The leopard print beauty's eyes stared at Si Wenxin without blinking. Her heart was rippling and her cheeks were flushed. "Jun, is he your friend?" "Yes." The music was very loud and Tang Jun shouted at Si Wenxin, You asked me out, why are you late? Under the red and green lights, Si Wenchen raised his wrist and pointed at his watch. I'm very punctual. His cold face under the light had a hint of evil charm, mixing the wisdom and manliness of a successful businessman just right. Even if he was a little arrogant, his expression was magnanimous, and he was a very attractive man. Tang Jun drank a mouthful of whiskey and said something to the leopard print beauty. She struggled for a while, but in the end, it was to no avail and she reluctantly left. When she left, her eyes were still staring at Si Wenchen, but he was not moved, obviously not interested in her at all. After the beauty left, Tang Jun sat beside Si Wenchen, so it was convenient to talk. She put her arm around his shoulder and went over to tease him. You bastard, you stole my limelight the moment you came. Tang Jun was also very tall, dressed in high-quality casual clothes, very tasteful. His fair and beautiful face showed that he was also a man with a high status. Si Wenchen poured a glass of whiskey and smiled coldly. I'm not that bored to steal your limelight. You didn't steal it on purpose, but the moment you came you beat me down. Look, even my woman has been charmed by you. Tang Jun saw that the leopard print beauty was standing not far away and kept looking at him, unwilling to leave, and smiled. Look at how reluctant she is to leave you. Why don't you let her accompany you tonight? I promise I didn't touch her. Si Wenchen raised his eyebrows. Do I look like I would touch my brother's woman? She's not my woman, we've only known each other for less than 10 minutes. Si Wenchen drank a mouthful of whiskey, shook his head and spat out 4 words. Cultured scum. He and Tang Jun had known each other since they were young, and the Si and Tang families were old friends. Tang Jun was younger than him by 3 years and loved to follow him from a young age. Si Wenchen had always treated him as a younger brother, and the two had a good relationship. Tang Jun was smart, capable and loyal, but his character was not good when it came to women. He changed women every few days, and old Master Tang often complained to Si Wenchen that he would not be able to hold a grandson even if he died. Si Wenchen and Tang Jun were brothers and they were quite similar in many aspects. The main thing was that Tang Jun admired him and had always been strict with him. However, the two had completely different attitudes towards women. Tang Jun was surrounded by thousands of women and every night he would flirt everywhere. On the other hand, Si Wenchen had very few women around him, almost none. His private life was so simple that Tang Jun had more than once suspected that he was gay. This is called carpe diem and I'll do it when I feel something. I've never flaunted myself as a gentleman, but I'm not a cultured scum either. Tang Jun's tone was a little smug but not frivolous. It's all those women who come to me on their own accord and I can't reject them. How hurtful. When it's a matter of mutual consent, there's nothing I can do about it. Who asked me to be so charming? Scram. Si Wenchen lit a cigarette and held it between his fingers. The smoke lingered, and he had a cold and dispirited aura as he smoked, which made him look even more masculine. Chapter 62. Si Wenchen snorted disdainfully. How can two people without feelings do it? Don't you feel disgusted? I'm asking you to solve your physical needs, not to get married. What's wrong with not having feelings? As long as the other party is beautiful, has a good figure, and is sexually compatible, it's fine. That's the same as hiring a prostitute. I think it's dirty. Si Wenchen took a puff of his cigarette, his eyes cold and hard. Tang Jun was quite depressed. What era are your thoughts from? Can't you keep up with the fashion? You're good at everything but you're too pedantic in this aspect. Everyone takes what they need. It's not as serious as you think. Try it once and you'll know. A playboy actually had the face to lecture him so seriously? Si Wenchen was the one who was truly speechless. He flicked the cigarette ash and licked his lips. I'm not going to talk nonsense with you. Shall we play golf tomorrow? Not tomorrow, maybe next time. It's rare for you to ask me out. Why do you have to pick a time when I'm not free? I have to attend the 3rd anniversary banquet of Qin Baiyuan and his wife tomorrow night. The old man personally ordered me to go. I can't escape. Si Wenchen's fingers paused as he flicked the ash from his cigarette. A ripple flashed across his dark pupils. 3rd anniversary banquet? Yes. It's that Qin Baiyuan. Speaking of philandering, I'm really inferior to him. He's already married, but he's still in the headlines with all kinds of female celebrities every day. I heard that the company even has a long-term one. I don't know what his wife is thinking. But his wife has no status. The Shi family is already on the decline, relying on Tao Yiqin alone. Moreover, she's a concubine's daughter. If it were me, I wouldn't do it either. I really don't know what old man Qin sees in her. Maybe his wife is especially ugly, or else he wouldn't be so insatiable. Don't you think so? Si Wenchen didn't feel too comfortable after hearing this, so he replied. His wife isn't ugly. Oh? You've seen her? Si Wenchen didn't say anything. What does she look like? Is her figure hot? It's none of your business. I'll go with you tomorrow night. Tang Jun was surprised. You're a workaholic, don't you hate these social gatherings the most? Don't tell me you're bored out of your mind. You must have some ulterior motive. If you ask me, the relationship between the Si and Qin families is so complicated and they're like fire and water. If that woman finds out about your identity, she might start a fight on the spot. You don't have to find trouble for yourself. Si Wenchen puffed out the last smoke ring and fiercely stubbed out the half-smoked cigarette in the ashtray. If I say I'll go, then I'll go. Cut the crap. Tang Jun shrugged his shoulders. He had made up his mind. Was there any room for him to speak? Otherwise he would be asking for a snub and annoying others. All right. You were the one who wanted to go, so don't blame me if anything happens. It's still early tonight, are you sure you don't want me to help you find a woman? Scram. In the same bar, two beautiful women sat in the corner. Men kept coming over to strike up a conversation, but they were all rejected. The woman in the pink dress was Su Zhixian. She had thick makeup on and looked like a beautiful vixen. She swayed her body to the music and was extremely enchanting. The woman in front of her was also beautiful, but she was timid. She kept frowning and asked anxiously, Sister Su, are we really going to do that? That will affect young Master Qin's reputation. She could tell that she was very worried, but Su Zhixian didn't care. She even glared at her fiercely. Didn't we agree on it before? Are you going back on your word? And no, I'm just worried about young Master Qin. Don't worry about it. Anyway, if you still want to survive in the entertainment industry, do as I say, do you hear me? Okay. She shrunk her neck and didn't dare to disobey Su Zhixian's orders. She didn't dare to offend the Qin family, but the Su family was also very powerful. If she dared to disobey, she would die a horrible death. She had no other choice. Su Zhixian raised her head and drank the whole glass of whiskey. Her seductive eyes were full of calculation and coldness. She swore bitterly, Shi Shujing, don't even think about taking the position of Mrs. Qin. I will make you the laughingstock of the whole Flozen city. Shi Shujing pulled herself together and dressed up carefully for the memorial banquet. Firstly, Qin Yuning saw this matter as very important. She had to take his feelings into consideration. Secondly, she didn't want to make her relationship with Qin Baiyuan worse. She knew that he had always despised her for being ugly. Maybe if she dressed up, he wouldn't hate her so much. Of course, this was just her wishful thinking. She didn't have much hope. The banquet was held at the Hilton Hotel. Shi Shujing got off work early and went directly to the hotel. There was a professional stylist for her. About an hour later, she changed into a gown and finished her makeup. She admired herself in the mirror. She had light makeup on, and the pink rouge covered her haggard face. Her skin was fair and translucent, and her facial features looked like they had been drawn with a brush. She was pure and beautiful, and her lips were as red as honey. Her eyes were slightly melancholic, as if they were covered by a layer of fog. Under her long eyelashes, her eyes seemed to twinkle like stars. She was fresh and natural with a different kind of flavor. Her hair was tied into the simplest bun, and it fell softly on her shoulders. It was very pure and elegant. She was relatively tall. She wore a nude pink fishtail dress, which made her figure look even more slender. The dress was tailor-made for her. Every stitch was extremely ironed, and her figure was delicate and beautiful. Her fair skin was set off by the ice blue dress. It was not eye-catching. There was a kind of low-key and delicate beauty. There was no jewelry on her body, but it was not monotonous at all. Instead, it made her more elegant and refined. She stood there quietly. She was not pompous or high-profile. She was like a delicate doll, elegant and docile. She was dewy and tender. Shi Shujing also knew that she was beautiful like this. Clothes make the man. After dressing up, she was reborn. Now that she was so beautiful, no one could imagine that she usually looked like an old nun. Any man would like such a dress, right? Then what about Qin Baiyuan? Would he like it? Would he be amazed and surprised by her like this? She was dreaming again. Shi Shujing smiled bitterly. He had so many women around him. Which one of them was not more beautiful and charming than her? Which one of them was not more charming than her? What right did she have to amaze him? Moreover, he hated her as if she was a fly. Maybe he would think that she was ugly when she dressed up. In short, she herself was the biggest mistake. The makeup artist and stylist sincerely praised Shi Shujing and left. Seeing that there was still some time, she did not want to go early. She did not like to entertain people, especially those businessmen whom she did not know. It made her feel very tired. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The sound of the door being violently smashed interrupted her thoughts. Shi Shujing, what are you doing? Come out quickly. Shi Shujing. What are you doing? Are you deliberately making me wait? Open the door. Qin Baiyuan urged impatiently outside. It was so noisy that her scalp hurt. Qin Baiyuan opened the door and saw Shi Shujing, who was dressed to the nines and looked brand new, appear in front of him. His fist that was pounding on the door suddenly stopped, and he furrowed his brows. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. His vision and nerves were greatly impacted. The woman who was as beautiful as a doll in front of him was really that old ugly woman? Qin Baiyuan did not dare to believe it. He knew that Shi Shujing was not ugly, but she wore old-fashioned glasses and a conservative nun's outfit every day. As time went by, she became very ugly in his eyes. Suddenly appearing in front of him in such an image, it was no wonder that Qin Baiyuan could not accept it for a while. He opened his mouth and could not squeeze out a word for a long time. Thinking of that night when he was enchanted by Shi Shujing's body, he suddenly felt a little anxious and unbearable. The more beautiful she was, the more he struggled with his heart. He deliberately made a disgusted expression and said mean words. What do you mean? Do you think you are beautiful? Ugly woman. You are so ugly no matter how you dress up. It's so disgusting. Shi Shujing knew that Qin Baiyuan was being sarcastic. In any case, it was her fault for dressing up, but it was also her fault for not dressing up. No matter what she did, it would be wrong. She would never be able to please him, so she didn't argue with him. He could say whatever nasty things he wanted to say. It wasn't like she would lose a piece of flesh anyway. Last time Qin Baiyuan humiliated her in front of Gao Zhuqing's house, Shi Shujing still remembered every word clearly, so she still had a grudge against Qin Baiyuan. However, today was their wedding anniversary after all. She did not want to show her emotions to outsiders. Isn't there still 15 minutes? Who said that you can arrive on time? Can't you come earlier? Do you think you are a princess? You want everyone to wait for you and you want me to invite you in person? How arrogant you are. Shi Shujing pursed her lips and did not argue with him. She had seen how Qin Baiyuan was with other women, including Su Zhixian. He was very gentle. He was definitely an excellent man, considerate and attentive. All his arrogance, ruthlessness and cold-bloodedness were all directed at her, as if she was a heinous sinner. Sometimes she really felt that he was ugly. What are you looking at? Did I say anything wrong? Shi Shujing sighed. I have to dress up for tonight's occasion. Dress up for who? For me? You are the ugliest woman in the world in my eyes. No matter how well you dress, you are still ugly in my eyes. Qin Baiyuan raised his eyebrows and sarcastically said. Or are you not trying to please me, but to please Mr. C or your clients? What? How many blind men are willing to sleep with you? Do you really think that you are a heartthrob? Do you enjoy the feeling of being surrounded by men? What nonsense was he talking about? Did he have to be so mean? Shi Shujing was speechless. I did not invite Mr. C today. Anyway, you have more than one client. As long as there is a man, you will dress up beautifully and try to seduce him. Is there something wrong with your brain? Shi Shujing finally could not help retorting. Chapter 63. Don't pretend to be virtuous. If you care about the Qin family's reputation, you won't go around attracting bees and butterflies. You're obviously a man, so why are you pretending to be a decent woman? I can't be bothered to argue with you. Shi Shujing left him and left, but Qin Baiyuan chased after her relentlessly. What do you mean by this? Are you angry at me? I just can't communicate with you. Shi Shujing walked very fast. Yes, you can't communicate with me. You can only communicate with those wild men in bed, right? I just don't buy it. You can think whatever you want. You. Just as she was about to walk out of the hall, Qin Baiyuan grabbed Shi Shujing. He used too much force, so she sprained her ankle and fell into his arms. As soon as she broke free from his arms, she saw Qin Baiyuan's contemptuous face. What did I say just now? You pretend to be virtuous, but your body can't wait to throw itself into my arms. This is the trick you used on those wild men. I didn't. Let go. Shi Shujing pushed him twice. Qin Baiyuan pinched her shoulder blade with one hand and looked at her dangerously. Listen to me, there are many important guests today. If you dare to make any trouble, I'll teach you a lesson. What trouble can I make? Shi Shujing was so angry that her face turned red. You're the one making trouble now. Let go of me. You, what are you two doing? The guests are here. Why don't you get out? Qin Yuning walked over. Qin Baiyuan and Shi Shujing were still angry with each other. Both of their faces were not very good, but they still restrained their anger. Shi Shujing took Qin Baiyuan's arm and walked into the lobby. 3 years ago, when Shi Shujing and Qin Baiyuan got married, they just got married in a low-key manner. There was no banquet. Shi Shujing's identity was only known by the company's insiders. Therefore, most of the guests at the scene had never seen her before. Instead, they often read gossip about Qin Baiyuan in the newspaper. Therefore, everyone was curious and wanted to watch a good show. They wanted to see what this pitiful woman who was nicknamed the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle looked like. They wanted to see if she was so ugly that even her husband despised her. However, to everyone's surprise, she was actually very beautiful. It was not the kind of eye-catching and gaudy beauty, but the kind of fresh and elegant, more charming. Dressed in an ice blue dress, she was noble and elegant, beautiful and lively. As the breeze blew, her black and beautiful hair gently danced, sweeping across her delicate cheeks. She gently brushed it away with her white fingers. The scene was as beautiful as a painting. She wasn't just a pretty face. She looked elegant and knowledgeable. She was intelligent, but she wasn't arrogant because of her intelligence. On the contrary, she smiled politely. Her every move, every frown, and every smile gave people a feeling like they were bathing in the spring breeze. It was very comfortable. Shi Shujing knew that at tonight's banquet, most people came with the purpose of watching a joke. Qin Baiyuan's scandals were the laughingstock of the entire Flozhen city, and she was the biggest joke. However, the more they believed that she was ugly and wanted to see her embarrassed, the more beautiful she had to dress. Her own strength was the best counterattack against those people. Thinking about this, Shi Shujing's back became even straighter. Like a white swan, she raised her beautiful neck. She did not give off an arrogant or domineering feeling, but she was brimming with confidence. It made people unable to pity her because she was not inferior to them at all, and did not need their pity. Qin Baiyuan and Shi Shujing greeted the guests together. He was surprised to find that the usually reserved woman was very open in this kind of situation. She was natural and unrestrained, elegant and decent, and did not embarrass him. Moreover, Qin Baiyuan could see that all the male guests were very interested in Shi Shujing, thinking that she was very beautiful. In all fairness, the dressed-up Shi Shujing was indeed very beautiful. If he did not hate her so much and the two of them were just strangers, then perhaps he would be interested in her and take the initiative to talk to her. Her beauty was very unique, it was fresh and elegant, attracting people to look deeper. Of course, that was if, after being married for a few years, how could he not know Shi Shujing? She was very scheming, pretending to be old and weak, but behind the scenes she could do anything. She was very sinister and her acting was very good. Only he would not be fooled by her tricks. However, Qin Baiyuan was also a man, and his vanity was very strong. Other men were drooling over their wives, so of course he also felt that he had face. He could not help but feel very proud, as if Shi Shujing was a beautiful piece of clothing that added a lot of color to him. On the other hand, this kind of vanity also increased his hatred for Shi Shujing, feeling that she was too cheap. When there were fewer people, he moved closer to her ear and ridiculed her coldly. "Are you very proud now? So many men are looking at you, you must be very happy, right? Don't you enjoy the feeling of men being fascinated by you the most? You are also thinking about seducing men at the wedding anniversary dinner, you are also a piece of work." The two of them looked very intimate, and when Qin Baiyuan spoke, his expression was also very gentle. Who would have thought that his words would be so unpleasant to the ears? Shi Shujing knitted her beautiful eyebrows, wanting him to shut up. "Which eye of yours saw me seducing men? Do you think I am a fool? You are sending that kind of signal to every man, and any one of them can *ck you. You are unreasonable." To be honest, those men's gazes were like flies circling around Shi Shujing, which made Qin Baiyuan uncomfortable and annoyed. No matter what, Shi Shujing was also his wife, and not some display item for them to look at. He really wanted to poke their eyes blind. What was worse was that Shi Shujing was like a butterfly, wandering around those men who were drooling over her, attracting bees and butterflies. Qin Baiyuan was already depressed. His scoundrel friend Huang Ziting walked over. As the heir of the Huang group, he was a hedonistic son of a rich family. He also had a good appearance, but his eyes were roguish and somewhat evil. Big brother, sister-in-law, let me toast you. I wish you a lifetime of happiness. Huang Ziding had one hand in his trouser pocket, and his two eyes lingered on Shi Shujing's body. She could see that his eyes were not good, which made her feel very insecure, and a layer of goosebumps appeared on her skin. But because he was Qin Baiyuan's friend, she reluctantly clinked glasses with him. When shaking hands, Huang Ziding deliberately held Shi Shujing's hand and did not let go. His fingers even teasingly slid across her palm, which scared Shi Shujing so much that she hurriedly withdrew her hand and found an excuse to run away. Qin Baiyuan saw this and could not help but frown, but he did not say anything, and his expression was obviously not good. But Huang Ziding only stared at Shi Shujing's perky buttocks, and even licked his lips wickedly. Why have you never said that sister-in-law is so beautiful? I always thought that she was ugly. If I had such a beautiful wife, I would definitely go home every day. Why would I play outside? Qin Baiyuan resisted the urge to beat Huang Ziding, raised his head, drank a mouthful of champagne and gritted his teeth. Really? How is she beautiful? How is she not beautiful? Even if she is not an outstanding beauty, she is still a feast for the eyes, and she has a good temperament. When Huang Ziding spoke, his eyes did not move away from Shi Shujing's buttocks for a second, and he touched his lips lecherously. The smell on her body is not comparable to those women outside. I heard you gritting your teeth and complaining about how ugly and disgusting she is, and I really believed you. I did not expect that she is a stunning beauty. Is there something wrong with your eyes, or is it a psychological trick? It is such a waste to leave such a beautiful wife at home and then go out to play around. The more Qin Baiyuan listened, the more upset he was, and his heart was burning with anger. She is a B***. Really? I can't tell, but I think she is very pure. Huang Ziding drank a mouthful of champagne, narrowed his eyes and came up with a bad idea. You really did not touch her? Not even once? Since you don't want to play, don't waste it. Let me have some fun, okay? Anyway, I have slept with many of the women you have played with before. The veins on Qin Baiyuan's forehead immediately bulged and he clenched his fists. What are you talking about? Although you should not bully a friend's wife, you have never treated her as your wife, so it doesn't matter? It is such a waste to let such a beautiful woman be a widow. The more Huang Ziding said, the more excited he became. Besides, don't you want to take revenge on her? I am taking revenge for you. Get out. Qin Baiyuan was angry and he grabbed Huang Ziding's collar, and his angry look scared him. Listen to me clearly, Shi Shujing is my woman. I don't want her and it is not your turn. If you dare to have any ideas about her, I will make your company close down tomorrow. Huang Ziding was so scared that he did not dare to make a sound. Shi Shujing went to the other side to greet the guests, and from afar she saw Qin Yuning and Yin Jingqi chatting with two men, and one of them was Si Wenqin. She was stunned on the spot. She had carefully checked the guest list and he was not there. Why is he here? From a distance, Si Wenqin's eyes fell on Shi Shujing, as if there was a radar, and his deep eyes were half squinted, as if there was a different meaning. Shi Shujing remembered that night and she heard a boom in her ears. She panicked and hurriedly avoided his eyes. Just as she was about to escape, Qin Yuning saw her and called her over. Shi Shujing had no choice but to close her eyes, calm her mind and brace herself to go over. Although she tried her best to stay calm, the inadvertent eye contact with Si Wenqin still made her panic, and her fingers could not help trembling. Let me introduce you, this is Mr. Si, president of Ocean Group, and this is Tang Jun, president of Sun Group. Shi Shujing lowered her head. Nice to meet you. Yin Jingqi had been secretly observing Shi Shujing's expression, and sure enough, she saw that she was very guilty. How could she not feel guilty after doing something shameful? She snorted coldly in her heart, but the corners of her mouth raised a strange smile, and she deliberately asked, "Is there anything on the ground? Why do you keep your head down? Raise your head and speak, or the guests will think that I don't know how to teach my daughter-in-law." Shi Shujing's throat tightened and she barely raised her head. Si Wenqin was still expressionless, introverted and calm, but perhaps because of her guilty conscience, she always felt that there was a faint smile in his eyes. Chapter 64. Qin Yuning was afraid that Shi Shujing hadn't heard it clearly, so she introduced him again. This is the president of the Ocean Group, Mr. Si. This is the president of the Sun Group, Tang Jun. Shi Shujing forced a smile. Nice to meet you. Yin Jingqi said again. Do I need you to introduce me? The Ocean Group's project was taken over by Shi Shujing. The two of them are already very familiar with each other. Isn't that right, Shi Shujing? She could tell from Yin Jingqi's words that she was beginning to suspect her relationship with Si Wenqin. However, the more she wanted to calm down, the more uneasy she showed. She was somewhat at a loss. I have indeed met Mr. C a few times. Mr. C has provided a lot of good advice on the new project. I see. Qin Yuning nodded. My daughter-in-law has only been working for 2 years, so she doesn't know much about real estate. In the future, I'll have to rely on Mr. C to take care of her and teach her. Si Wenqin stared at Shi Shujing's nervous face with a faint smile on his face. He took a sip of the red wine and seemed to be savoring the taste of her. A mellow voice escaped from his lips. Manager Shi performed very well. I admire her very much. If there's anything I can do for you as long as Manager Shi asks, I will not hesitate. Qin Yuning was very happy when she heard this and nodded vigorously. That's good, that's good. Seeing that Si Wenqin's expression didn't change, Yin Jingqi guessed that he must be an expert. He lied so naturally. However, no matter how perfect his disguise was, all of these tricks couldn't escape her shrewd eyes. After this time, she was 100% sure that the relationship between the two of them was very abnormal. Shi Shujing found an excuse to leave. Si Wenqin kept staring at her back. He didn't stare at her directly. His gaze was quite deep and carried a sense of scrutiny. Tang Jun's gaze moved back and forth between Si Wenqin and Shi Shujing a few times, and he had a rough idea of what was going on. I didn't expect Qin Baiyuan's wife to be so beautiful. She is completely different from the rumors. She is a very charming woman. Si Wenqin muttered to himself as if he was praising his own woman. He was a little proud. Tonight, she was very beautiful, and his gaze was firmly attracted at first glance. Under the dim golden light, she was dressed in an icy blue dress and had a fresh and elegant temperament, just like a goddess. All these years, even though he had never been attracted to women, there was no lack of women who threw themselves at him. He had seen many beautiful women, but none of them could attract him so strongly. It was hard for him to take his eyes off her for even a second. Even as he reminisced about her silhouette, it was as if he had drunk wine, and the corners of his mouth couldn't help but curl up into a deep smile. I've always been worried that you weren't interested in women. It turns out that you're only interested in a certain woman. Wife, your taste is quite heavy. Before he could say anything, Tang Jun gave him a knowing smile. Don't deny it. Others may not know you, but how can I not know you? I know what's going on at a glance. Although she is Qin Baiyuan's wife, as long as you like her, it's not a big problem. At least your sexual orientation is normal. Otherwise, I would be worried that you would lay your hands on me. Now, I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Si Wenqin was too lazy to pay attention to his nonsense. He stuffed the goblet to him and left. Shi Shujing walked to the long dining table, poured a small glass of champagne and took a sip. He drank it too quickly and almost choked. There was nothing between her and Si Wenqin. However, what made her panic the most was that every time he saw her, there was another meaning in his eyes, as if he was thinking about her, which made her feel very uneasy. Even though she was far away from him, her heart was still beating fast and her cheeks were hot. Are you running away from me? The sudden male voice behind her startled Shi Shujing. She turned around in a panic and saw Si Wenqin standing in front of her. Dressed in a well-ironed suit, he looked magnanimous, noble and elegant like a god. She could not hide the panic in her eyes. Like a frightened deer, she subconsciously tightened the corner of her skirt, trembled nervously, and did not know what to say. I didn't. Then why are you hiding so far away? Si Wenqin slowly took a step forward like an elegant cheetah, his posture calm. What are you afraid of? When he was about to lean forward, Shi Shujing hurriedly moved back. Don't be like this, there are so many people. What? I don't think I did anything to you. Si Wenqin still maintained the original distance, looking like a gentleman. It was obvious that he was just playing a prank on her. Shi Shujing knew that she was being played. Her face turned red and white and she did not know how to respond. I didn't invite you to tonight's dinner. I know. If it was someone else, I wouldn't be interested. I just miss you a little, so I came to see you. Shi Shujing was not sure if he was deliberately teasing her or what, but she felt very uncomfortable with his words. The two of them actually kept a distance from each other, and it looked like they were having a normal conversation. However, because of her guilty conscience, she always felt that everyone was secretly observing them, and they were all suspicious of their relationship. Shi Shujing put on a serious face. Today's wedding anniversary dinner is very important to me. If you're here to congratulate me, I'm very grateful. But if you have ulterior motives, please leave. You're not welcome here. Ulterior motives? Si Wenqin pondered over this word, and he seemed to find it interesting as he raised his eyebrows. Slowly, he took another step forward and leaned close to her ear. "What do you think? I have ulterior motives towards you?" At such a close distance, even the smirk at the corner of his mouth was magnified countless times. It was so mysterious, and she could not guess what he would do in the next second. Shi Shujing was like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. Her body was tense, and she was in fear and trepidation. Between the two of them, one was nervous and the other was calm and casual. "At this moment? So you're here. I've been looking for you for a long time." As soon as he finished speaking, Shi Shujing was hugged by a long arm from behind, and a familiar cologne scent filled her nostrils. That was the smell of Qin Baiyuan. When Shi Shujing was hugged, she looked up and saw that it was Qin Baiyuan who had walked over without her knowing. He stood beside her calmly and hugged her. His intimate posture was very natural, as if this was how they had always been together. He had a beautiful face, two thick eyebrows, and a naturally smiling mouth. The corners of his mouth were raised, and he looked naughty and handsome to the extreme. Looking at him like this, Shi Shujing was dazed for a moment. This was the first time he smiled at her like this, and it was very beautiful. Although Qin Baiyuan was a devil, he had a very beautiful appearance. At this moment, the way he looked at her was very gentle, and his eyes were rippling with smiles. His lips were also slightly raised, as if he was the most gentle man in the world, as gentle as water. If not for the hand holding her waist secretly exerting force, Shi Shujing would really think that Qin Baiyuan was as gentle as he looked on the surface. However, the pain on her waist made her wake up instantly. Qin Baiyuan's gentleness was just an act for Si Wenxin. Instead, it was replaced by a kind of panic. "So you're here. I've been looking for you for a long time, my dear wife." Qin Baiyuan's voice was so gentle that it could drip water. It was emotional and deep, and it was full of tenderness. The way he hugged her looked very intimate. After being married for 3 years, this was the first time he treated her so kindly. Shi Shujing couldn't help but be stunned. She even saw a trace of love in his eyes, which confused her mind. For a second, she felt that she was even willing to go through water and tread on fire for that gentleness. "You're so beautiful tonight. I can't take my eyes off you for a moment." Qin Baiyuan hugged Shi Shujing's waist and whispered softly. His eyes were affectionate, as if Shi Shujing was the only woman in the world, and he loved her so much that he couldn't extricate himself. It could only be said that his acting was too good, and his eyes were too confusing. Shi Shujing's heart was numb, and her bones also felt soft, as if there were hundreds of little ants crawling in her body. For a moment, it seemed that only she and Qin Baiyuan were left in the whole hall, and even Si Wenxin didn't exist. The way she stared at Qin Baiyuan made Si Wenxin feel a trace of displeasure. This kind of feeling was rarely felt before. It was impossible for her not to see that Qin Baiyuan was acting, but she was still confused by him. Did she love him so much that she even lost her mind? Qin Baiyuan was very satisfied. The look in her eyes was enough to prove that he was still attractive to her. He glanced at Si Wenxin from the corner of his eyes, but unfortunately, there was no displeasure on his face. He didn't know whether he hid it too deeply, or he just wanted to play with Shi Shujing and didn't mind the two of them being so intimate. No matter which it was, Qin Baiyuan had been living like a prince since he was a child, and he was a man with strong self-esteem. The stronger the opponent, the more he wanted to fight for it. Even though he knew in his heart that this was not good for the future plan, and this Mr. C was a very powerful character, his provocation might cause trouble. But he was not afraid. After all, he was the heir of Blue Sky, and he would never be a coward who wore a hat and didn't say anything, and be laughed at in his heart. He could not take this lying down. He looked at Si Wenxin provocatively. There was a hint of arrogance and possessiveness between his brows, as if he was declaring his ownership. He knew that he and Shi Shujing might have really slept together, but he just couldn't swallow it. He wanted to let him know that Shi Shujing was his wife. Although Qin Baiyuan's behavior of declaring ownership made Si Wenxin unhappy, he had always been introverted and didn't show it. The key was that he disdained to argue with a young man who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. That would be beneath his identity and too stupid. What he cared about was not how Qin Baiyuan acted to provoke him, but what Shi Shujing thought. But it was obvious that this woman's heart was still with Qin Baiyuan. Qin Baiyuan showed off his love for a while, and then pretended to be lazy and turned his attention to Si Wenxin. "How come Mr. C has time to come over? I remember, you didn't seem to be invited. How can I not come to Shi Shujing's dinner party?" Chapter 65. Qin Baiyuan said sarcastically. Oh, it seems that Mr. C came here especially for my wife. She is more influential than the Qin family. She can even invite you. Do you like her very much? As for whether this like had a single meaning or multiple meanings, he was very vague about it. His expression was calm and relaxed, and he was still smiling. His true emotions could not be discerned. Shi Shujing felt a chill on her back. She couldn't stop shivering and her throat was tight. Of course, she knew Qin Baiyuan's purpose. She was caught in the middle of two men. She was flustered and just wanted to find a hole to hide in. Si Wenqin lowered his eyes, arrogant and mysterious. Whether in terms of momentum or expression, he was much steadier than Qin Baiyuan. In the face of his provocation, he was extremely calm and his silent posture was mysterious. After a long while, he answered unhurriedly. I do have a good impression of Shi Shujing. Qin Baiyuan just frowned a little. It was not obvious at all. But his arms suddenly exerted force and almost broke Shi Shujing's waist. According to his character, he could directly rush up and beat him up. Good impression? His nerves were greatly stimulated. What was good impression? They had already slept together. He bluntly said that he was interested in Shi Shujing. He wanted to take her away? He was her husband, but he dared to openly admit his bad intentions in front of him? He didn't take him seriously at all. Qin Baiyuan was a spoiled person. He had always been the one bullying others. He had never been bullied like this. He almost went crazy, but his remaining reason reminded him that if he got angry, it would only make the adulterous couple more complacent. He was not so stupid. Shi Shujing was in so much pain. She looked anxious. If they continued, she was afraid that they would make trouble, so she asked Qin Baiyuan in a low voice. Let's go first. The iron arm on her waist tightened again. The pain made her bite her lips. Qin Baiyuan calmed down and smiled instead of getting angry. No wonder Mr. C admires our Shi Shujing so much. My wife is so charming. It's hard not to like her. Gazing at her affectionately, hidden in that gentleness was a sharp coldness. The more affectionate Qin Baiyuan's tone was, the more dangerous it was. Didn't I also fall head over heels for her? His fingers tightened on her waist. The more he loved her, the more he hated her. He ground his teeth. My wife is the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. She's always surrounded by flies. I can't get rid of them. It's disgusting. Qin Baiyuan, Shi Shujing shouted in a low voice. He lowered his head and did not dare to look at Si Wenqin. Si Wenqin looked at him coldly as he performed a one-man show, because he felt that he was too stupid and comical, and couldn't help but mock him. It seems that President Qin and Mrs. Qin have a very good relationship. It's completely different from the rumors. Could it be that the gossip magazines are talking nonsense? I'm a businessman, so I can't avoid socializing and putting on a show. Those magazines love to make groundless rumors to slander me. I'm really wronged. Qin Baiyuan kissed Shi Shujing's ear. He was filled with love and infatuation. He loved her dearly. Fortunately, I married a reasonable wife who is willing to believe me. Our relationship is really good, and I won't give any chance for a third party to intervene. Shi Shujing felt very embarrassed. Si Wenqin knew very well how their relationship was, but Qin Baiyuan was still putting on an act here. It was really stupid, but he couldn't ask him to leave. In the end, Si Wenqin left first. He didn't want to waste time watching Qin Baiyuan's act. More importantly, he didn't want to make things difficult for Shi Shujing. After he left, Shi Shujing heaved a sigh of relief. A pained expression appeared on her face as she questioned Qin Baiyuan angrily. What were you doing just now? Are you crazy? What? Do you feel sorry for me? Or do you feel embarrassed because I, the husband in name, provoked your adulterer? Shi Shujing's only response was a sneer. I feel embarrassed because of your stupidity. I'm stupid? Yes, the stupidest thing I did was to compromise and marry such a fickle woman like you. The adulterer came to me. You're really capable. Shi Shujing closed his eyes and suppressed his anger. I don't want to quarrel with you on such an occasion. Let's talk about it when it's over. Shi Shujing. At this time someone called her. She turned her head and saw Tao Yiqin and Stony Moon walking over. During the years in the Shi family, Shi Shujing suffered a lot from Stony Moon. The relationship between them was very bad, but she still reluctantly greeted him. Brother-in-law. Stony Moon pretended not to hear her and turned to smile at Qin Baiyuan. That smile stunned Qin Baiyuan, and his expression became complicated. He opened his mouth as if he had a lot to say, but in the end, he just nodded silently. He clenched his fists as if he was suppressing some kind of emotion, but it was very subtle and hard to notice. In order to ease the tension at the moment, Qin Baiyuan greeted Tao Yiqin, but Tao Yiqin had always been against Qin Baiyuan, so he didn't pay attention to him at all. If it was any other time, Qin Baiyuan would be very unhappy, but now his whole heart was in a mess, and he couldn't think so much. All his energy was used to restrain himself from looking at Stony Moon. "Congratulations," Tao Yiqin said, holding back his heartache. He knew very well the grievances Shi Shujing had suffered in the past 3 years. This banquet looked grand on the surface, but for her, it was a great irony. She had to face all this with a strong will, which must have taken a lot of courage. It could be imagined how bitter her heart was. "Thank you." Family was Shi Shujing's only comfort. Her lips curled up into the only genuine smile that night. Qin Baiyuan felt like his heart was being bitten by ants, anxious and uncomfortable. He couldn't stay a second longer, so he pulled Shi Shujing to the stage. There were so many people in the hall, but his eyes were only attracted by one figure. His heart was slightly hurt, and his arrogant face revealed a little vulnerability. No matter how hard he tried not to look at her, she was everywhere. Even if his eyes left her, his heart was always disturbed by her and fluctuated strongly. "Calm down," Qin Baiyuan said in his heart over and over again. He had endured for so many years and he had to continue to endure, at least within the constraints of marriage he had to do so. He held Shi Shujing's hand with one hand, raised the champagne and faced the guests. "Thank you for coming to my and Shujing's 3rd anniversary banquet." The lights focused on Qin Baiyuan, who was dressed in formal clothes, elegant and dignified. As a son of heaven, he was confident and arrogant, exuding a natural aristocratic aura. His young face seemed to have been precisely placed on his face by the hand of God. He was angular and stunning, and became the focus of all eyes. "I know there are many false rumors about me in the outside world, causing everyone to have some misunderstandings about this marriage, but in fact, Shujing and I have a very good relationship. I love my wife very much." Qin Baiyuan held Shi Shujing's hand and gazed at her affectionately. His eyes seemed to condense the whole ocean of affection, which was enough to drown people in such gentleness. Now, the female guests were about to be melted by his eyes, and they yearned to be like Shi Shujing. "My wife is the most beautiful woman in my life. I cherish her very much and I cherish this marriage very much. I will never let anyone have the chance to take her away." From the corner of his eyes, he kept staring at Si Wenqin among the guests. Shi Shujing had to admire Qin Baiyuan's acting skills. He was obviously lying through his teeth, and probably everyone felt as if they were watching a funny farce. Compared to indifference, his acting was the greatest humiliation to her. Everyone knew that he had betrayed her, but he could still talk about how much he loved her without batting an eyelid? How ridiculous. The most pitiful thing was that she knew she was being humiliated, but she still wanted to be his puppet and accompany him to put on an act. She was indeed despicable to the extreme. Qin Baiyuan tried his best not to be affected by that figure, and focused all his attention on Shi Shujing. He stared at her watery, innocent eyes, and gently lowered his head to kiss her. "Wife, I love you." His low, husky, magnetic voice was filled with deep affection, and it was like a spell that bewitched Shi Shujing's nerves. She looked at him without blinking and her whole body went limp. She almost drowned in that pair of deep pupils. If it wasn't for the mocking sneer on Qin Baiyuan's lips, she would have really fallen for it. Seeing that face getting closer and closer, she began to feel flustered and ashamed. Si Wenqin narrowed his eyes, and a murderous look flashed across his eyes. Just as the kiss was about to fall on Shi Shujing's face, a woman rushed in and shouted, "Qin Baiyuan, I'm pregnant with your child." The security guards chased after her, but they couldn't stop her. Under everyone's shocked gazes, she rushed to the front of the stage and cried, "I'm pregnant with your child?" Everyone was stunned. No one expected such a sudden situation. After coming back to their senses, everyone's expressions became a little strange. They exchanged glances and waited to see a good show. Qin Yuning glared at Qin Baiyuan and ordered the security guards, "Take her out." "I'm not leaving." The woman struggled with all her might like a madman. She desperately rushed to the stage, grabbed Qin Baiyuan's arm and complained in pain. "I'm pregnant with your child, you can't do this to me." Shi Shujing's face was ashen, as if she had been hit in the head by a hammer. The sudden reversal pushed her from the dream to the terrible hell. After Qin Baiyuan came back to his senses, he was embarrassed and angry. He hurriedly glanced at Shi Shujing, eager to disassociate himself from that woman. What nonsense are you talking about? Have you forgotten? That night when we were together, you said before that you loved me very much, and you would divorce your wife. Qin Baiyuan had some impression of her, but he had slept with many women and he didn't even know her name. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, he was also flustered. Don't slander me, he gritted his teeth in a low voice. How could it be my child? Whose bastard are you pregnant with? Don't try to blame it on me. It's really yours. You were drunk that night and we didn't use protection. Qin Baiyuan, I really love you. Please don't do this to me. Perhaps for a second tonight, when Qin Baiyuan gazed at her with such deep affection, she really imagined that their future might turn for the better. However, reality quickly slapped her in the face and shattered her beautiful dream. This marriage, from the beginning to the present, was a complete tragedy. She sang a one-man show with wishful thinking. Qin Yuning patted her shoulder and sighed apologetically. He wanted to say some comforting words, but he didn't have the face to say them. His face was also heavy. Shi Shujing knew what he meant and smiled. Dad, I'm fine. It's my fault for not teaching my son well. I raised such a bastard. It's one thing to lose face, but it also embarrassed you. When he comes back, I'll definitely teach him a lesson and make him apologize to you. No need, Shi Shujing shook his head and smiled bitterly. So what if he apologizes? It can't change the fact that it has already happened. I'm just wondering if I did something wrong back then. I shouldn't have forced myself to marry him, which led to this situation. Don't think like that. It's Qin Baiyuan's fortune to be able to marry a wife like you. You're not wrong. But he doesn't love me. That's the biggest mistake. Shi Shujing felt very tired. Her smile was so pale that it made one's heart ache. Don't think too much. Go home and rest first. I want to walk alone. Qin Yuning was worried that she would take things too hard, but he still nodded. All right. After Shi Shujing left the hotel, she wore a thin dress and wandered aimlessly on the streets. The weather was very cold. The night wind blew her hair into a mess. Her pale little face had a sorrowful expression and exuded an aura of despair. The passers-by looked at her with a strange gaze, but she kept her head lowered as if no one else existed. There was only herself and her pain left in the world. In such a quiet night, the pain continued to magnify, attacking her thin body. There had been many times when she had felt pain and despair. She had thought that she would be numb after getting used to it. However, her heart, which was riddled with holes, would still feel pain even after suffering so much. There was a feeling of suffocation. Shi Shujing walked for a long time. Her entire body was cold and her legs were trembling. She almost couldn't support herself, but she didn't feel any pain. Behind her, the black Rolls-Royce followed her at the same distance. Ever since Shi Shujing left the hotel, Si Wenqin's car had been following her. There was originally an important meeting at 10 o'clock that night, but he cancelled it and sent Tang Jun away. He had been waiting for Shi Shujing outside the hotel until all the guests had left. For an entire hour, he did nothing but smoke and wait for her. It was as if he had used up all his patience on this matter. He never knew that he would have such a patient side. It was all for the sake of not causing any trouble for her. He had never tried to be so considerate of others. Her slender figure was so lonely and helpless, as if it could be blown away by the night wind at any time. It gripped his heart, bit by bit, the kind that was like a silk cocoon being peeled off. He had never thought that he would be so nervous for a woman who had nothing to do with him. Even his emotions were fluctuating for her. The reason why he didn't go forward was because he wanted to give her some space. He was more thinking from her perspective. Even though he was domineering, he wasn't a man who liked to force others to do things against their will. Especially in front of the woman he liked, he was willing to show full respect. Shi Shujing didn't know how long she had been walking. She was very tired and her legs couldn't support her anymore. It was as if she could fall at any time. But other than walking forward, she didn't know what to do. Once she stopped, her heart would hurt even more. The black Rolls-Royce stopped beside her, and the person inside opened the door. It was Si Wenqin. He was deep, reserved, and expressionless. He sat upright in the back seat like a god, looking at her indifferently. His firm lips let out a deep voice. Get in. The wind messed up his voice, and when it entered Shi Shujing's ears, it was cold without any warmth. She ignored it and continued walking forward. The Rolls-Royce maintained the same speed as her, slowly driving forward. After walking for a while, Si Wenqin's voice came again. Get in. Go, I don't need your concern. Shi Shujing rejected him coldly. If you continue walking like this, you'll catch a cold. That's my problem, it has nothing to do with you. Shi Shujing, don't bother about me. She shouted at him in annoyance and walked even faster, as if there was a fierce beast chasing after her and she couldn't avoid it in time. Si Wenqin asked the chauffeur to stop the car and chased after her, taking big strides. Go back with me. I don't want to. Go, don't bother about me. Go home with me. Can you stop bothering me? You're really annoying. Shi Shujing covered her ears and jogged away. Si Wenqin continued to chase after her. He took off his jacket and put it on her, but she pushed it back into his hands. I don't want your hypocrisy. She shouted at him. Her eyes were red with anger and her face looked ferocious. It was as if the two of them had a grudge against each other. She had completely lost control and became another person. Don't bother me anymore. That look of resistance and hatred in her eyes made Si Wenqin stop in his tracks. He felt very unhappy. Shi Shujing ran as fast as she could, but she sprained her ankle and fell to the ground. She thought she was in so much pain that she couldn't cry, but the tears burst out of her eyes at that moment and fell down. She broke down emotionally like a child who had been wronged. She cried and cursed. She scolded Qin Baiyuan for being a bastard, and she also scolded herself for being weak and disappointing. She hated everything. Her cries hurt Si Wenqin's ears. He was also a man with a temper, and he couldn't stand her not knowing what's good for her. When he thought that she was suffering because of Qin Baiyuan, the fire in his heart couldn't help but rise, and he wanted to leave her alone. However, after taking a few steps, he couldn't harden his heart. He clenched his fists, turned back and walked in front of her. Shi Shujing's eyes were filled with tears. In her blurry vision, she saw a hand reaching in front of her. She was so angry that she slapped it away and screamed. Scram! I don't want your pity. Pity? You only have yourself to blame. Do you deserve pity? Si Wenqin coldly said. These words provoked Shi Shujing. She was like a hedgehog, her emotions stirred as she cried and roared at him. That's right. I deserve it. You want to see how miserable I am. Are you satisfied now that you've seen it? Can you scram now? I don't have time to admire your miserable state. Si Wenqin grabbed Shi Shujing's arm and pulled her up from the ground. Come with me. Shi Shujing fell into his arms. Just as she was about to resist, she was caught by him. Her body was limp, completely relying on his arm to support her. She was practically hanging onto his body. His face was pressed down, and in the midst of his tears, he looked even more shockingly handsome, like a handsome and dangerous Satan. That pair of pitch-black and deep pupils were as sharp as a bayonet, faintly hiding a trace of anger. At such a close distance, looking down at her from above, a fanatical aura like fire sprayed messily on her face. Shi Shujing's heart was in a mess as she struggled even harder. Let go. Let go of me. I have nothing to do with you, you don't need to care about my matters. Yes. I deserve to be lowly, but that's my business. Did it bother you? Why are you pretending to be a good person? Chapter 67. In her anger, Shi Shujing lost her mind. She didn't care who the other party was and just tried her best to vent. She had been carrying too much all this time, and it had been too hard for her to endure it. She poured it all out. Si Wenqin was also very angry. Qin Baiyuan was the one who caused all of this, so why did he have to bear it? However, he couldn't let go of this woman in his heart. He couldn't leave her here. He had always prided himself on being calm, but he was also angered by her. He increased the strength of his palm and immediately felt her trembling in pain. However, she stubbornly clenched her teeth and refused to cry out in pain. Look at what you've become. Is it worth it for a man like that? It's my business whether it's worth it or not. Who are you? What right do you have to criticize me? Shi Shujing's face turned red, but she smiled coldly. You said that Qin Baiyuan is a scum, but how much better are you? To put it bluntly, you're only interested in my looks, isn't it? You're even more despicable than him. Si Wenqin was provoked. His temples were throbbing, and the veins on his forehead were like dangerous beasts that could explode at any time. The man grabbed her arm and pulled her over. The distance between them was almost zero. If he lowered his head, he would be able to touch her lips. Although Shi Shujing was furious, she still felt panic. Si Wenqin looked very dangerous. She didn't know what he would do to her, so she was very afraid. Let go. She struggled uneasily, but she didn't dare to make any big movements. She was afraid of kissing his lips, and her voice was also softer than before. She sounded more like a frightened kitten. However, Si Wenchen was so strong. The more she struggled, the tighter he gripped her, making her sink deeper into his chest. His tall figure was filled with deterrence, and his strength was ready to be unleashed. His slender arms were like steel that held her tightly, making her unable to move. Their bodies were tightly pressed together. The masculine and strong body formed a strong contrast with the delicate female body. His scorching body temperature made Shi Shujing's nerves numb. He didn't dare to act rashly again, and his struggles became shy. You, let go, what? Now you know fear? Weren't you very short-tempered just now? Why aren't you telling me to get lost? Si Wenchen sneered coldly. Before you throw a tantrum, shouldn't you take a good look at who you're shouting at? Shi Shujing regretted it. Even if she lost her mind in anger, she shouldn't have been so reckless as to throw a tantrum at Si Wenchen. She swallowed nervously. Sorry? I was too angry. You think you can bark at me just because you're angry? It was you who kept pestering me, that's why Shi Shujing bit his lips and begged. I'm in a really bad mood today. Please give me some time to calm down. Give you time to think about Qin Baiyuan? Do you think I will? Si Wenchen clasped her arm with one hand and stroked her cheek with the other. He liked the soft and tender touch very much. Shi Shujing's face suddenly turned red. Her heart was beating wildly. Wherever his fingers touched, it was like a fire burning and boiling. Her cheeks were burning hot. She could tell that Qin Baiyuan was acting earlier. However, when Si Wenchen stroked her cheek at this moment, his expression was so gentle that it made her heart melt. The emotions in his eyes didn't seem like he was acting. At least she couldn't tell. Please don't do this, Shi Shujing trembled. If it wasn't for his arms supporting her, she would have already collapsed in his arms. The distance between them was so close that their breaths intersected, and it was hot. Their posture was so intimate and ambiguous. His charming lips were just above hers, and his breath was teasing her lips as if he would kiss her at any time. You know very well. I've always wanted you. This is why I can't stop pestering you. Si Wenchen said those lingering words of love, but his face was unusually calm. He took in cold breaths, and the heat was only transmitted through his burning skin to Shi Shujing's body. She could feel his strong arms as if he wanted to rub her into his flesh and bones. That feeling scared her, but at the same time, it was an irresistible charm. She clearly knew that he could do anything. Let me tell you. This is the reason. Just as she finished speaking, his long and narrow eyes narrowed. His large palm clasped the back of her head and kissed her. In the cold and windy night, he kissed her just like that. Her figure was completely integrated into his, and it was stretched out by the street lights. He was kissing her. Si Wenchen kissed her. Shi Shujing was stunned for a moment before she realized that her lips were sealed. This was too scary. Woo woo, she struggled and wriggled her body trying to get rid of him. Whoa. No, don't. But I've wanted to do this for a long time. Si Wenchen pressed her against him once again, not giving her any chance to refuse. Shi Shujing panicked. She closed her eyes and kept pushing. She wanted to resist his invasion, but she was unable to resist the intense kiss. Si Wenchen used one hand to lock her wrists behind her back. No, don't. Shi Shujing's breathing was weak, but in the storm that little bit of sound was insignificant and was quickly swallowed up. Her entire body was under his control, and she could only passively endure his intense kiss. The air around her was squeezed dry, as if she was melting in his arms and she couldn't breathe at all. The man's strong arms had such a terrifying charm that it could soften all her strength. Even though she was still conscious, she couldn't control the waves of numbness that spread from her back to her brain. As the kiss deepened, she felt even more uneasy. It wasn't until she was about to collapse that Si Wenchen was willing to let go of her. The tip of her nose was pressed against his, her breathing was uneven and her eyes were shining. She was like a fish that was out of oxygen, unable to recover from the shock and shyness. Her cheeks were red, her eyes were a bit confused, and her consciousness was in chaos. Si Wenchen admired her red lips. His heart was filled with satisfaction and he couldn't help but lightly peck her red lips again, smelling the fragrance on her neck as he muttered. You taste so sweet, I like it a lot. You, shameless. Shi Shujing flew into a rage out of humiliation and slapped him, but it was easily stopped by Si Wenchen in midair. The usually serious him was now frivolous like a hoodlum. He was so bad that the angrier she was, the more pleased he was. What right do you have to kiss me? Despicable. Despicable? Si Wenchen raised an eyebrow, looking as evil as a playboy. But I can see that you like my kiss. You're the one who forced me. No matter what, I like it a lot, and in the future, you will also like it." As Si Wenxin said that, he dragged Shi Shujing to his car. His lips curled up and his eyes were very bright, as if he had found a rare treasure. "Let go of me. Let go. Si Wenxin, you. Where are you taking me?" "Home." When Shi Shujing heard that he was going home, he panicked and flapped his wings like a bird that fell into a trap, struggling with all his might. "I don't want to go back with you. Let go. Si Wenxin." He turned around and pressed her against the car door. His handsome and dangerous face was once again close to her. His sharp and sinister gaze was firmly fixed on her, which had a kind of charm that went straight to her heart. At such a close distance, his face was like the devil, causing Shi Shujing to tremble in fear. "Whatever I tell you to do, you must obediently do as I say, do you understand? Don't try to provoke me again, you can't bear the consequences." After Moya finished his warning, he suddenly regained his gentleness as he caressed her face with a smile. "Good." Since the farce at the dinner party, Tao Yiqian's tightly knitted brows had not loosened. His usually gentle face was now like a storm. At that time he almost lost his mind and rushed up to beat up Qin Baiyuan. That bastard was so lucky to be able to become Shi Shujing's husband, but he did not know how to cherish it and hurt her again and again. It was really intolerable. After thinking about it, Tao Yiqian still could not feel at ease. With one hand driving, he freed up his other hand to call Shi Shujing, but no one picked up. When he made the second call, Stony Moon, who was beside him, suddenly opened her mouth. "Why are you calling when you're driving? Aren't you afraid of an accident?" Tao Yiqian ignored her and the second call was still a busy tone. "Who are you calling? Shi Shujing?" Stony Moon had enough of being treated as heir, so she snatched the phone away and angered Tao Yiqian. "Give the phone back to me." Stony Moon threw the phone aside angrily. She was used to being unreasonable and unreasonable. She was not afraid of Tao Yiqian at all because he had a good temper. "She is not your wife, why are you so worried about her life? She has been used to it for the past 3 years, why would she want to die? Even if she really wants to die, it is her business, what has it got to do with you? She is your sister." "Sister?" Stony Moon rolled her eyes when she heard that. It was very funny. "Why didn't I know that I have a sister? I did know that there was a woman named Yan Zizhuang who seduced my father and gave birth to a bastard named Shi Shujing." Tao Yiqian was in a bad mood and his tone became heavier. "You have to say that? What else do you want me to say? Teach me, how should I face the daughter of the person who interfered with me? She shamelessly destroyed my family, and I still have to treat her as a family member?" For more than 10 years, Stony Moon had never stopped hating Yan Zizhuang and her daughter. Every time she thought about it, she would be furious. "Yan Zizhuang stole my father and now Shi Shujing stole you? Both of them are B*cheese, they specialize in seducing other people's husbands. There is nothing between me and Shi Shujing, don't make trouble out of nothing." "I'm making trouble out of nothing? You dare to say that you don't like her? We have been married for a few years, but you have never forgotten her in your heart. Every time something happens to her, you are so worried. What do you want me to think? Tonight, your eyes did not leave her for even a moment. Have you considered my feelings?" Chapter 68. In the past few years of marriage they had been with each other day and night, sharing the same bed. However, the company of thousands of days and nights was not as good as that of Shi Shujing. How could Stony Moon swallow this? It was like a fishbone stuck in her throat and it hurt when she thought about it. Loving a man who had someone else in his heart was the most heart-wrenching torture. After calming down for a while, Tao Yiqian's expression eased a little. "I did like Shi Shujing, but that's in the past. I know very well that she is Qin Baiyuan's wife now. But you still like her. Even when we are together, you still think about her in your heart." Over the past few years, Shi Jiyue had gradually come to realize the truth. She no longer foolishly hoped to move Tao Yiqian with gentleness and consideration. What she was thinking now was that even if she couldn't win his heart, she wanted to dominate him. Even if she was not happy, she would drag him down. She would never let him have a shameless affair with Shi Shujing. Taking a breath and suppressing the wetness in her nose, Stony Moon's expression became very ruthless. "I don't care whether you like her or not. In short, remember clearly that I am your wife. If you dare to do something wrong to me, I will destroy both of you." At about 11 o'clock in the evening, Su Jixin was in her apartment, walking back and forth like a trapped beast and kept making phone calls. She couldn't count how many times she called, but the response she got was, "Sorry, the number you have dialed is power off." Su Jixin was going crazy. Didn't she tell him clearly that he would call her after the thing was done? What did he mean by power off? Did he betray her? This thought made Su Jixin feel like she was struck by lightning, and her ears exploded with a boom. It wasn't that she didn't think about this before, but at that time she was too anxious to embarrass Shi Shujing, so she did it by hook or by crook. She didn't have time to consider the seriousness of it. Now that she thought about it, it was very likely that it was so. After all, Qin Baiyuan would definitely not let that woman go easily after making such a big mess. Maybe she would reveal herself when she was afraid. Su Jixin's face turned pale. The doorbell rang at this time. She jumped up like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bowstring. She shivered, but the doorbell kept ringing. Soon, she heard Qin Baiyuan banging on the door angrily. "Su Jixin, open the door. Open the door. Damn it. I know you're inside." Su Jixin was very afraid, but she knew that she had nowhere to run, so she could only bite the bullet and open the door. As soon as she opened the door a little, Qin Baiyuan rushed in, grabbed her shoulders violently and pushed her against the wall. The back of her head hit the wall and it hurt. Her vision went black and she cried out in pain. "What are you doing? Let me go, it hurts." In the dizziness, Qin Baiyuan's furious face became clearer and scarier. He was so angry that his eyeballs seemed to fall out and he gnashed his teeth. "Did you let that woman do it?" "What woman? I don't know what you're talking about." Su Jixin's smile was uglier than crying and she begged sadly. "My dear, you're really hurting me. Can you let go of me first? My shoulders are almost broken by you. You're still playing dumb. You instructed that woman to say that she's pregnant with my child and make a scene at the banquet." Qin Baiyuan's eyes bulged and he roared loudly. The whole hall echoed with his roar. He knew that a strange woman who came out of nowhere couldn't have such courage. There must be someone manipulating behind the scenes. Sure enough, he got the answer with just a few words. However, he couldn't guard against the person next to him. He really didn't expect that the person behind the scenes was Su Jixin. He couldn't wait to tear her apart. With Qin Baiyuan's current terrible mood, he could skin Su Jixin alive. No matter how she cried or begged, he clasped her shoulders and insisted on an answer. Later, Su Jixin couldn't bear the pain and shouted, "It's me. I asked her to do it." The terrifying force on her shoulders loosened, and in the next second, her neck was strangled. Qin Baiyuan's fingers clasped Su Jixin's trachea, and he kept exerting force. His face was quite horrifying. "Damn it. How dare you do this? You know how important the banquet is. How dare you? That's because I love you. You're hurting me." Qin Baiyuan roared angrily. "You're taking revenge on me on purpose? Is that so?" "I didn't," Su Jixin cried. "I'm just in too much pain so I couldn't control myself. I'm wrong, I really know I'm wrong. I'm sorry." Salty tears flowed into Su Jixin's mouth. These tears were not fake. "I just want to embarrass Shi Shujing. I'm just not reconciled. But I never thought of hurting you. We've been together for a year. But I've always been nameless. Have you ever considered my pain? I'm not one of those casual women. I shouldn't have to bear the infamy of being an interloper. How could Shi Shujing get you? This isn't fair." Although Qin Baiyuan was still very angry, he was a soft-hearted person. The sharp coldness in his eyes also softened a little. His fingers trembled and he slightly loosened his grip. "Even if you love me, you shouldn't have done this. You've made me the laughingstock of the whole Flows and city." "I'm sorry." "I'm sorry." Looking at Su Jixin's pitiful look, Qin Baiyuan couldn't bear to let go of her. He was very agitated now. He closed his eyes and different emotions collided fiercely in his chest. He had to suppress them. He also knew that in the past year Su Jixin had suffered a lot because of him. As the daughter of the Su family, she had many choices, but she was willing to be his woman. She even facilitated the cooperation between Blue Sky and the Su family. How could he not understand her affection? For Su Jixin, he didn't love her, but he felt pity and gratitude. This was also why he kept her by his side. Qin Baiyuan clenched his fists and his voice was surprisingly calm. "I've made it very clear from the beginning. I can't give you what you want. If you regret it, you can leave me at any time." "I don't." Su Jixin hurriedly grabbed his arm and cried her heart out. "I know I'm wrong. Please forgive me, don't break up with me. Without you I'll die. Forgive me." Qin Baiyuan gritted his teeth. "I know you've done a lot for me, so this time I forgive you. But if there's a next time, It'll be the time we break off our relationship. As long as she could keep him, Su Jishin would do anything. She nodded desperately and smiled through her tears. Good, good, good. I swear I won't make any more mistakes. Let's not quarrel, okay? I know you're in a bad mood. Why don't you take a shower first? Stay here tonight, please. Qin Baiyuan was also besieged on all sides. He didn't want to go home to face Qin Yuning, nor did he have the strength to go to the bar. He nodded, pushed her hand away and walked into the bathroom. Su Jishin felt very uncomfortable. Just now she was really scared by Qin Baiyuan. He had never been so fierce to her before. It seemed that she had angered him. However, she didn't regret it. As long as she admitted her mistake, there was still room for redemption for Qin Baiyuan. The humiliation to Shi Shujing was real. Step by step, she would pull her down from the position of Mrs. Qin. Su Jishin's eyes revealed a fierce cold light again. Her cell phone rang. She took out her cell phone from Qin Baiyuan's suit pocket. It was Qin Yuning's number. She also hated Qin Yuning very much. She hung up the phone and muted it. Tonight, she wouldn't let anyone disturb Qin Baiyuan. She also flipped through the text messages and call records to see if Qin Baiyuan had contacted those wild women. She knew that he was just playing with them, but she was still a little jealous, so she deleted all those text messages. She clicked into the album. Originally, she was just going to flip through it casually, but a few photos shocked her. They were intimate photos of Shi Shujing and a man. Some of them were coming out of the hotel and some of them were whispering intimately, just like a couple. Su Jishin's first reaction was that Shi Shujing, that bitch, had betrayed her. On second thought, she felt that it was normal. Otherwise, how would she deal with those troublesome clients? The man's face was not very clear. An idea flashed through Su Jishin's mind. She looked at the bathroom to make sure that Qin Baiyuan was still taking a shower. She hurriedly sent the photo to herself and deleted the record. The Rolls-Royce stopped downstairs. Si Wenchen's two long legs stepped out of the car and looked at Shi Shujing. She still had a sullen face and refused to get out of the car. She looked a little stubborn. After being blown by the wind for a while, the blush on her face receded. Her small face was white and not much color, but it had a different flavor. It was a haggard and graceful beauty. Not getting out of the car? I want to go home. In this kind of situation tonight, I think you should stay here. It won't be good to go back. You are not me. You have no right to make decisions for me. Si Wenchen smiled deeply, walked to the other side of the car and opened the door. Get out. I don't. In the next second, Si Wenchen suddenly got into the car. His tall body pressed against Shi Shujing's, scaring her so much that she pressed her back against the car seat and looked at him anxiously like a bird startled by the mere twang of a bow. In the dim light, that face was really charming. He looked like a dangerous wolf, but also like an elegant fox. His eyes were so cold that she felt goosebumps all over her body. Be good and I won't do anything to you. But if you want to go against me, then. I can't guarantee what I will do. Every word was said very slowly and very gently. It was so soft that it gave Shi Shujing goosebumps all over her body. Every pore was so sensitive that it opened up from her scalp to the tip of her toes. It was difficult for her to swallow and her cheeks began to flush again. Get out of the car? Shi Shujing was very unwilling and complained that he was overbearing. She used to think that he was a gentleman, but it turned out that he was just a hooligan. Of course, she still did not dare to go against him. It would not do her any good. She bit her lips and suppressed her emotions. How am I going to get out of the car if you don't move aside? Si Wenchen seemed to find it very interesting. The corner of his lips curled up, but it disappeared very quickly. He retreated to the side in a gentlemanly manner. After Shi Shujing got out of the car, he followed her and walked side by side with her. Shi Shujing's face was very tense. She did not give him a good look, nor did she look him in the eye. It seemed a little rude, but her heart was in a mess. She was purely pretending to be calm. Chapter 69. Si Wenchen had both his hands in his trouser pockets, standing calmly and elegantly at the side. The lights in the elevator shone on his face, outlining his angular side profile. It was hard to describe his perfect facial features with words. His tall and straight body, arrogant and noble, he was like a god. His own light was enough to make a space shine because of him, but it was also enough to make everything else pale in comparison. In short, he was a ray of light, the center of attention. Shi Shujing was intimidated by his aura. His magnetic field was too strong. Even if she did not look at him, she would still be affected by him. It was hard for her body and heart to withstand that kind of pressure. Therefore she could not help but think, what did a man like Si Wenqin see in her? He had no lack of women who were prettier and had better figures than her. Why did he have to provoke a wife who might get into trouble in the future? Perhaps the preferences of people at the top of the pyramid were strange. The kiss just now was not counted for him, but Shi Shujing was different. She had never thought of giving her kiss to a man other than Qin Baiyuan. Shi Shujing's principle had always been not to get tangled up in things that had not happened. But now, her heart was in a mess, and she could not help but let her imagination run wild, causing her to have a headache. She was upset, but Si Wenqin kept looking at her with an elegant gentleman's posture, with a smile that was not a smile. It made her feel uncomfortable, and she grumbled as if she was angry. Why are you always looking at me? Is there something on my face? Si Wenqin smiled deeply, and his silent response made Shi Shujing even more uneasy. Ding, the elevator opened. Si Wenqin went out first and Shi Shujing walked to the door of the elevator, but he could not take that step. He stopped and turned back to look at her, his eyebrows raised. Or, do you prefer me to go in and carry you out? His chiseled facial features shone brilliantly. He was 100% masculine, graceful and reserved, but also 100% dangerous. Shi Shujing had no doubt that Si Wenqin would do such a thing. The more he interacted with him, the more he knew that this man was a domineering plunderer. Even if he said it in the most relaxed tone, it was like an order that could not be disobeyed. There was no way to say no in front of him. Of course she couldn't either. Shi Shujing entered the apartment. When Si Wenqin closed the door, he clearly noticed that her body trembled. It seemed that she was frightened. The man pulled his tie with one hand and joked lightly. What are you afraid of? It's not like I'm going to eat you. Shi Shujing thought that might not be the case. Si Wenqin changed into his slippers, untied his tie and threw it on the sofa. He then began to unbutton his shirt. In front of Shi Shujing he took off his suit and shirt, revealing his muscular chest. The man's figure had lost the youthful look of a teenager and was mixed with elegance and nobility. When he started to unbuckle his belt, Shi Shujing realized that it was inappropriate and blushed. Don't take it off. Si Wenqin continued to take it off, but he slowed down. I don't have the habit of being fully armed at home. If you don't feel comfortable you can take it off. What he said. Was he a hooligan? Shi Shujing complained in her heart. Si Wenqin was soon left with only a pair of boxer shorts and a height of 1.88 meters. She stood there awkwardly, not knowing where to look. Si Wenqin saw her embarrassment and deliberately walked in front of her. Her line of sight was at the same level as his chest muscles. Go take a shower first. I'm not going. Shi Shujing found it hard to breathe and her voice was trembling. It's not convenient. It's not your first time taking a shower here. There's nothing inconvenient about it. Si Wenqin put his hand on her shoulder. I kissed you just now. Your lips are very cold. Go take a shower so you don't catch a cold. The scene of him kissing her forcefully flashed in Shi Shujing's mind again. She took a step back and escaped from his palm. She was like a helpless child with her head lowered. Don't bite your lips. That will make me commit a crime? Si Wenqin's voice was husky and sexy. It was so deep that it drilled into Shi Shujing's ears. Men were so unreliable, especially when it came to such matters. Shi Shujing's mind was in a mess. She thought that taking a shower could temporarily escape from him, so she nodded her head. The shirts are in my room. Choose whatever you want. I like them very much anyway. A mysterious and profound smile appeared on his lips again. Shi Shujing couldn't help but shiver and ran away. Shi Shujing rushed into the bathroom. She felt that her cheeks were as hot as fire. She didn't even have time to remove her makeup. She quickly splashed a few pinches of water on her face. The eyeshadow and mascara melted on her face along with the water like a palette. She looked very embarrassed. Too many things happened tonight. She didn't know how she got into such a situation. She felt that she was sinking deeper and deeper and it was difficult to get out. Qin Baiyuan alone was enough to make her exhausted. Now there was Si Wenqin who was staring at her like a tiger. Shi Shujing didn't know what to do. After showering for more than an hour, she dragged her feet. Her inner clothes were still intact, but she had changed into his shirt on the outside. When she walked into the living room, Si Wenqin was actually cooking. He fried half a pot of eggs and put them on a plate. Vegetables, sauces, and bread were prepared beside him. He was the high and mighty boss in the company and he could cook at home. Shi Shujing really couldn't think of a more perfect man than Si Wenqin. She stood there and looked at him in a daze. You are cooking at such a late hour? I think you must have not eaten dinner and drank wine. It's bad for your stomach. You have to eat some. Si Wenchen focused on making sandwiches. I'm not hungry. Shi Shujing refused his kindness. But as soon as she finished speaking, her stomach growled in protest. She felt very embarrassed. Si Wenchen smiled, pulled out a chair, and gestured for her to sit down. His gentlemanly gesture and gentle eyes melted all of Shi Shujing's resistance. She sat down obediently. She grabbed a piece of sandwich with both hands and nibbled on it. From the time Si Wenchen specially sent her to work, she could see that he was a careful man. Except for him, probably no one would consider that she had not eaten dinner. In addition, she had walked such a long distance and cried bitterly. At this moment she was already very hungry. Si Wenchen had a natural confidence in himself. Everything was under his control, including his cooking. He didn't need to ask Shi Shujing about the taste of the sandwich. Her phone was on the dining table and it rang. Shi Shujing took a look at Si Wenchen and answered it. Gao Zhuqing was howling on the other side. Where are you now? Are you okay? I'm fine. What's wrong? I heard about the dinner. A woman brought her child to make trouble? Shi Shujing frowned. Good news never goes out, but bad news spreads thousands of miles. It had spread so fast. How are you now? Where are you? I'm fine. Don't worry. Gao Zhuqing probably heard that she was whispering, so he asked again. It's not convenient for you to answer the phone? With Boss C? Shi Shujing pursed his lips. Yes. Then I'm relieved. Why didn't you tell me earlier? You made me so anxious. Then I won't disturb the two of you. Shi Shujing hung up the phone. He was speechless and looked at Si Wenchen. His eyes were still very serious, but there seemed to be a trace of a strange smile at the corner of his mouth. Gao Zhuqing? She's a bit crazy and likes to talk nonsense. Don't take it to heart. Shi Shujing added. Even she herself felt that it was a little revealing. What did she say? She opened her mouth and looked silly. Si Wenchen was in a good mood. There was a real smile in his eyes. The man stretched out his long arm and rubbed her fluffy head. It was a very doting action. Shi Shujing lowered her head, nudged him, and muttered softly. Don't touch me, it's oily. Anyway, she's crazy and talking nonsense. There's something wrong with her brain. I don't think so. Oh? I think she's smarter than you and her eyes are better than yours. Shi Shujing found it funny. Who would praise themselves in a roundabout way? The phone rang again. Shi Shujing saw the two words Qin Baiyuan flashing on the screen. Si Wenchen saw it too. She bit her lips and did not answer. She was annoyed. The phone kept ringing. It was really noisy. Shi Shujing was so angry that she almost choked it. Si Wenchen seemed to be focused on eating and asked her calmly. You're not answering? Shi Shujing was angry. What's there to answer? I have nothing to say to him. Si Wenchen did not say anything. He took a sip of red wine and said slowly, Since there's nothing to say, why don't you just get a divorce? Instead of dragging it on and torturing each other, it's better to cut the Gordian knot. Shi Shujing was very angry with Qin Baiyuan. But when she heard the word divorce, she had an instinctive resistance. Divorce or not, it's between him and me. You don't have to worry about it. You still think that it has nothing to do with me? Si Wenchen said quietly. His expression and tone were as calm as usual, but there was a deep meaning in it. She opened her mouth. Anyway, I still want to maintain a working relationship with you. As for tonight's matter, she gathered her courage. Just pretend that nothing happened. I won't pursue it. I hope you can think the same. Si Wenchen listened to her calmly and did not object. He wiped the corner of his mouth with a napkin and stood up. This is your one-sided wish. As for what happens in the future, we'll wait and see. A strong sense of crisis shrouded Shi Shujing's heart. She had to think of a solution before she couldn't get away. Shi Shujing spent the night at Si Wenchen's apartment. In order to avoid the embarrassment of facing him the next day, she deliberately got up early and sneaked away before Si Wenchen got up. She didn't know that Si Wenchen woke up earlier than her. The man waited for her to leave before he walked out of the room. He sat on the sofa and smoked a cigarette before entering the bathroom to wash up. It was still early. Shi Shujing guessed that Yin Jingqi had not woken up yet. She went home and changed before going to work. She was the focus of gossip in the company. Today, when she went to work, others looked at her with strange eyes and whispered behind her back. The female colleagues even sneered at her. She knew that the farce at the dinner party had spread and they were all gloating. Chapter 70. When she entered the bathroom, she heard two gossips talking about her again. Did you hear about the commotion caused by General Manager Saner at the dinner party last night? How could I not have heard about it? It's the hottest topic on the company forum. I don't know who posted it, but I guess it was Su Jixian. Who cares? The general manager has so many women, so it could be anyone. Let's just watch the fun. All the guests last night were VIPs. It's so embarrassing. Isn't it? I heard that they were showing off their love at the dinner party. That was a slap in the face. Loud and clear. Sure, Shujing even got slapped. She deserves it. The general manager clearly has no feelings for her, but she still pesters him and occupies Mrs. Chen's position. How shameless. If I were that woman, I would definitely give her a few slaps to vent my anger. You're so cruel, but it's true that she asked for it. She doesn't deserve sympathy. She still has the face to come to work today. If it were me, I would have found a hole to hide in. She's so shameless. Just wait and see. She won't be able to show off for long. She'll definitely end badly. No matter how harsh their words were, sure Shujing didn't take it to heart. After all, they had their mouths and she couldn't control them. No matter how much they insulted her, she wouldn't lose a piece of flesh. She didn't want to go to the bathroom anymore, so she went back to the office to continue working. Not long after, she received a call from Qin Baiyuan himself, asking her to go to his office. Sure, Shujing said he was busy, but Qin Baiyuan wouldn't let it go. She didn't want to waste time arguing with him, so she went to his office. Qin Baiyuan sat behind his desk. He usually paid special attention to his image, and even took a long time to choose a tie and a shirt. Today he was obviously not in the mood. His hair was a little messy and he didn't look that energetic. There were dark circles under his eyes. She could see his stubble from a distance. He probably didn't sleep well last night. In the past, the rumors about him and those women were all over the newspapers and magazines. He was proud of himself, but she was the only one who was embarrassed. This time the two of them were finally in the spotlight. She was embarrassed and so was he. This was karma. As soon as Qin Baiyuan saw her, he got angry and blamed her. Why did you waste so much time when I asked you to come up? What's the use of having legs? I'm working. I'm your boss. Your job is to obey me. Qin Baiyuan spoke with conviction. Every word he said was abnormally loud and sonorous. Sure, Shujing controlled his temper. Then may I ask what task you have for me? Where did you go last night? I'm here to work, not answer personal questions. When Qin Baiyuan saw her pretending to be serious, he was the angriest. He didn't understand. How could a fickle woman be qualified to put on such a noble posture? What job? Wasn't she just using her body to seduce those male clients to exchange contracts? Very dirty. But Qin Baiyuan didn't want to say those words now. It was arrogant and despotic. Just answer when I tell you to. If there's nothing else, I'll go back to work. Sure, Shujing. Qin Baiyuan gritted his teeth and called out her name. He slammed the table and stood up, rushing in front of her. Who do you think you are? How dare you treat me with this attitude? Who do I think I am? She smiled. In Blue Sky, I'm the project manager. Don't beat around the bush. Answer me, where did you go last night? She asked back. Then where did you go? Why do you care? He answered rudely. Sure, Shujing knew that he would answer in this way and smiled knowingly. That's it. We don't interfere with each other. I never care where you spend the night. Why do you interfere with my life? It sounded impeccable. For a moment, Qin Baiyuan couldn't say anything for a long time. He couldn't refute it. He was mad and shouted. You want to compare yourself with me? Are you qualified to compare yourself with me? Get it straight. It was you who begged to marry me, not me who forced you to marry me. So I have the right to control you, but you have no right to interfere with me. This is not fair. No one said that you and I are equal. You're just a loser. Don't take yourself seriously. Although Sure Shujing was used to his mean and poisonous tongue, he was still stimulated by the words loser. He frowned tightly, clenched his fists and shivered. Qin Baiyuan finally stimulated her. He was so excited that his eyes were shining and he was even more excited. What? You can't stand it? You're the one who's paying for it. Am I wrong? I came up because you said I had a job. I don't want to argue with you about other issues. It's not your turn to think about it. I think it's enough. Sure, Shujing was speechless about Qin Baiyuan's barbarism. After all, he was the general manager of Blue Sky and the future heir. But how could he be so arrogant? She admitted that he was very business-minded, but his temper was too bad. He was easily irritable. How could he bear the responsibility of the whole blue sky in the future? She hoped that his unreasonable behavior was only aimed at her. Otherwise she would really worry about the future of blue sky. Shi Shujing sighed silently. To you this marriage is in name only. I don't care about the issue of equality, and you have never treated me as your wife. So, where I spend the night and who I spend the night with, what does that have to do with you? Do you really care? It's none of your business whether I care or not. Anyway, I want an answer. Qin Baiyuan's beautiful face looked cruel and unreasonable, like a young tyrant. You mean you admit that you betrayed me? I can't control you spending the night with a wild man, can I? You were the one who chased me all the time. Now that you have a backer, you don't care about me anymore, do you? Can I control you? Shi Shujing asked. We have been married for 3 years. You have always done whatever you want. You have never considered my feelings. You turn a deaf ear to everything I say. Will you be controlled by me? As you said, I don't even have the right to interfere. Won't you hate me more if I control you? Qin Baiyuan was so angry that he rolled his eyes. Listen to her words. She was sanctimonious and reasonable. She pushed all the responsibility to him as if her betrayal was his fault. He had never seen a woman more hypocritical than her. So, you don't care about what happened last night? Is there a difference if I don't care? Shi Shujing played it down and his tone was very calm. It has already happened. What's the use of talking about it? To be honest, I am not surprised that something like that happened. What did she mean? Did she think that he was so unbearable that he would suffer? Qin Baiyuan was so angry that his eyebrows raised. I was set up by someone last night. Set up? Yes. Someone purposely found that woman to make a scene just to embarrass you. So, it's my fault. Shi Shujing shook his head. Qin Baiyuan did not mean that at first. But when she said that, he went along with her words and pushed the responsibility to her in a fit of anger. That's right. I was implicated by you. He had never seen someone invert right and wrong like this. It was so funny. Shi Shujing did not even have the strength to mock him. He just asked, that woman, did you sleep with her? So what if I slept with her? I have always taken adequate safety measures. She can't be pregnant. How can you not wet your shoes when you walk by the river? There is no 100% guarantee. If you did not sleep with her, there would not have been what happened last night. Even if someone was using her, the ultimate goal was you. I was just a cannon fodder. You, Qin Baiyuan wanted to tear her eloquent mouth apart. In any case, it's all your fault. If you say so, then so be it. I don't care. Looking at her indifferent face, the woman who used to say that she loved him and pestered him to marry her, was now dismissive of him? Even if he did not love her, Qin Baiyuan could not accept such a big gap for a while. You really don't care at all? I'm very tired. I don't want to care. Shi Shujing told the truth. Of course she cared in her heart. But the grievances and lessons she had suffered in the past 3 years had taught her a truth. Whatever she did was wrong. She should not humiliate herself. It was useless for her to care. She only had ulterior motives for being nice to him. Her love would become a tool for him to hurt her. Instead of that, it was better to keep a calm attitude. Even if she would feel pain in her heart, at least she would not be so humble in front of him. Qin Baiyuan could not vent his anger. Instead he laughed. Yes, of course you don't care now. You have hooked up with Mr. C. Will you still care about me? But let me tell you, the woman I don't like, he won't be blind to like. He is just playing with you. Once the novelty wears off, he will immediately dump you. Stop dreaming. Are you done talking? I still have a lot of work to do. Don't use work as an excuse. There is only half a month left. If you can't get the project of Ocean Group, get out of here. Shi Shujing left the office. She was in a bad mood after being tormented by Qin Baiyuan. In the end, the trouble was endless. In the afternoon, she was called over by Su Zhixian. Shi Shujing was called into the office by Su Zhixian. She was busy the whole morning, while Su Zhixian was leisurely painting her nails with her legs crossed. It was a world of difference. Moreover, Su Zhixian's position was an idle one. Her role was only to provide convenience for Qin Baiyuan. It was normal for her not to do any work. Su Zhixian looked at her with disdain. Her eyes seemed to grow on top of her head, looking at her with disdain. Shi Shujing looked calm. What's the matter? I heard about what happened last night. It was really exciting. Su Zhixian gloated as soon as she opened her mouth. I don't know what you are thinking. If it were me, I don't know how I would be able to face others in the future. It has been like this for 2 years. How can I be ashamed to face others? Even without what happened last night, I would still work hard in the company and get my salary on time. It wouldn't affect me much. I admire you for this. You are really thick-skinned. Shi Shujing smiled. In other words, your endurance is strong enough. Yes. Strong enough to pretend that nothing happened when San Air made a scene on Memorial Day. How strong. Su Jixin secretly gritted her teeth. Chapter 71. I can't help it. I've been honed for 3 years. If you want to attack me with this, I'm afraid Manager Su will be disappointed. Shi Shujing's words had a hidden meaning. In the morning when she heard Qin Baiyuan said that he was set up, her first thought was Su Jixin, and she was sure that it was her. Except for her, those women outside Qin Baiyuan really didn't have the guts to do this. How could she think of this kind of means? If she really loved Qin Baiyuan, why would she use him to attack me? She must be crazy. After this incident, she would be out of favor for a while. No man would like a stupid woman who caused trouble for himself. Su Jixin also guessed that Shi Shujing knew that it was her arrangement, but she was not afraid. She wanted Shi Shujing to know that she was against her. Is there anything else? In the morning, Ocean Group called and said that they will meet with our team tomorrow. Okay. Send me the time and place. In addition to those designers, our department will also send someone to assist. Shi Shujing looked at Su Jixin with vigilance. This woman must have a reason for doing this. The first thing she thought of was that she also suspected the relationship between me and Si Wenqin, so she deliberately sent someone to monitor me? In any case, it was not a good thing for Shi Shujing to have Su Jixin's eyes around him. I have always been responsible for the projects of Ocean Group. I alone am enough. I don't need the help of outsiders. What? Are you afraid that my people will steal your credit? Don't worry, I'm not as narrow-minded as you think. You are best at taking credit. I don't care at all. There is no need to waste manpower. This is not my idea. I am also following the arrangement of the higher-ups. If you have any objections, you can go to Director Yin directly. She agreed to it herself. It turned out that there was Yin Jingqi behind her. From Yin Jingqi's attitude at the dinner last night, it was not difficult for Shi Shujing to guess that she really had doubts about the relationship between him and Si Wenqin. If he strongly refused, it would make her more suspicious. Moreover, Yin Jingqi was very strong. It was useless for him to object to her decision. He could only accept it. No problem? Then I'll call her in. After a while, a tall girl in her early 20s walked in. She was mixed race, had fair facial features, and looked very delicate. This is Sarah. Shi Shujing nodded. The girl was young but well-mannered. She took the initiative to extend her hand. Hello, Manager Shi. Please take care of me. Shi Shujing had a good first impression of her. She was beautiful and sensible at such a young age. It was rare to see a girl like her. After tomorrow's dinner, Sarah will stay behind to entertain Boss C. Shi Shujing was stunned for a moment before he realized that this Sarah was specially prepared for Si Wenqin. She also knew her role and nodded meekly. I understand. To be honest, Shi Shujing felt strange. She knew that this was a common method in the business world, but she had never used it herself. After leaving the office, Shi Shujing kept thinking about this matter. She felt that it might not be a bad thing for her. Since Si Wenqin was interested in her, it was very likely that he would be interested in Sarah. Wouldn't she be free then? Of course, it was a bit despicable to think this way, but she also had no other way. Moreover, this was Sarah's own will. She was just going with the flow. Shi Shujing made up her mind. That was what she would do. The hotel was booked by Shi Shujing himself. This was the first time the team had contacted Si Wenqin, so they could not be negligent. They specially chose the most high-end club in Flozhen City. It was an antique private room. The floor was covered with expensive carpets, which were very soft to step on. The surroundings were surrounded by green plants. There were also windmills, running water, and white jade rockery in the room. Even the waiters were wearing exquisite cheongsams. They spoke softly and smiled elegantly like Miss Shiguan. Shi Shujing and her team arrived early. Sarah was a bit excited and took a few photos with her. She was absent-minded and perfunctory. She silently guessed Si Wenqin's reaction and felt a bit uneasy. About 10 minutes later, Shi Shujing was in a daze. The designer on her right gently bumped into her and whispered a reminder. Mr. Si is here. Shi Shujing panicked and looked over. Si Wenqin appeared at the door. Today he was wearing a long black trench coat with a turtleneck sweater, which made him look even more slender and handsome. He was even cooler than she remembered. The dusk-like light cast a silhouette on his slender body. He looked extremely good in black. His originally handsome facial features were even more profound. There was a kind of majesty and coldness that made him seem unapproachable. His majesty did not come from his coldness, but from his natural power. Under his calm face, people could feel the coldness and arrogance in his bones. When his deep black eyes looked over, Shi Shujing's heart skipped a beat. She clenched her fists tightly. Sarah, who was talking and laughing just now, suddenly became speechless. Her face was red and she could not stay calm. Between her eyebrows, there was surprise, excitement, and anticipation. Shi Shujing could understand. Which woman would not go crazy for Si Wenqin's charm? It was also the first time for the designers to see him in person. They could not hide their excitement and worship. Mr. C was the combination of wealth and status in Flozen City. He truly stood at the top of the pyramid. He represented success, wealth, and courage. Every man wanted to be like Mr. C. Shi Shujing had dealt with him a few times. She was relatively calm. She calmed herself down and nodded. Mr. C. Si Wenqin strode over. Even though he was arrogant, his attitude was polite. He was a very gentlemanly man. Miss Shi. The unfamiliar but polite tone caused Shi Shujing to think that the forced kiss that night was just a figment of her imagination. Si Wenqin took the initiative to extend his hand. It was a very beautiful big hand. The fingers were distinct and slender. Under the contrast of the black trench coat, it looked clean and cold. Shi Shujing secretly sighed and slowly extended her hand. He grabbed it. Shi Shujing retracted her hand and introduced. This is Sarah, a colleague from the PR department. The round table was not very big. Sarah's seat was arranged to be beside Si Wenqin. Shi Shujing sat in the middle of the design department, opposite him. This arrangement was not very obvious. Even though Sarah's identity was special, it was meaningless to be too clear about this kind of thing. However, Si Wenqin was a smart man. Shi Shujing guessed that he should understand this arrangement. Si Wenqin of course understood. The moment he entered the room and saw Sarah, he knew that this woman was prepared for him. Shi Shujing, since when did he like to play this kind of trick? Si Wenqin squinted his eyes. His facial features were still handsome and calm like a statue. Sarah was still young. She was so excited that her face was red and her heart was beating fast. Mr. C, nice to meet you. Si Wenqin nodded and sat down. Then he lit a cigarette and held it between two fingers. He elegantly exhaled the smoke. The smoke was hazy and his expression became more and more difficult to read. For a man like him, expressionless did not mean that his mind was not thinking about other things. He was a very shrewd man. He had always been indifferent and mysterious. Shi Shujing introduced his colleagues in the design department one by one and then handed over the proposal with both hands respectfully. This is our new proposal. It is still the first draft. There are many details that need to be improved. Si Wenqin took it with one hand. He continued to exhale the smoke with one hand and flipped through the proposal with the other. Everyone held their breath. Only the rustling of paper could be heard in the room. The designers' faces were all tense. They were too eager to get Si Wenqin's approval. After a long time, Si Wenqin opened his mouth. His eyes were unwavering. This proposal is much better than the last one, but there are still a few obvious loopholes. Shi Shujing quietly listened to him speak with fervor and assurance, marveling at his charm in her heart. He was not only a businessman but also an outstanding designer. His views were unique and wise, more intelligent than the top designers, which made Shi Shujing admire him from the bottom of her heart. A man's wisdom and skill were the most attractive weapons for a woman. After Si Wenqin finished speaking, he looked around and finally fixed his eyes on Shi Shujing. Manager Shi, what do you think? Manager Shi, what do you think? Si Wenqin asked a few questions. Shi Shujing came back to his senses in a hurry and mumbled, okay. In fact, she only listened to a few words at the beginning. Later, she was completely fascinated by his magnetic voice and elegant way of talking. She couldn't hear what he said at all. It was inevitable that she couldn't react when she was suddenly asked. Si Wenqin saw through her embarrassment and smiled calmly. Of course, his expression was still cold, so others couldn't see that he was smiling. Let's stop talking about the proposal. I think Manager Shi must have more important arrangements. The meaning behind his words was very deep, and Shi Shujing could sense that his eyes were a little malicious. It was obvious that he understood her intentions. She felt very embarrassed, so she played it down. Today I mainly want to treat Mr. C to a meal and chat. I don't have any important arrangements. Oh? Really? Si Wenchen took a deep drag on his cigarette and slowly exhaled. The corners of his mouth raised into a smile. There was a faint luster between his eyebrows. I'm looking forward to your arrangements. Sarah thought of her task and she was really attracted to Si Wenchen, so she took the initiative to say, I've heard of your great success stories for a long time. I've always admired you, but you're too low-key. I've been guessing what kind of person you are. I didn't expect to have the opportunity to meet you today. It's really my honor. I've read all your special issues of financial magazines, including the recent interview. You're the best man I know. Sarah spoke softly, but not in the annoying coquettish tone. It was very pleasant to listen to. The designers had always admired her, so they were also very envious of Si Wenchen. Shi Shujing thought that successful men all enjoyed being worshipped and admired by women. It could satisfy their male chauvinism. Not to mention that Sarah was so beautiful. Even Si Wenchen must be happy. Secretly observing, he seemed to be satisfied with Sarah. He talked and laughed with her while smoking. Chapter 72. With Sarah taking care of Si Wenchen, she was happy to be free. She chatted with the designers from time to time and focused on eating the rest of the time. Because of this dinner, she had been feeling uneasy the whole day and had no appetite. She did not eat much and now she was really hungry. When she raised her head to drink water, she found that Si Wenchen was looking at her with a faint smile. But in just a second he continued to talk with Sarah, and his eyes were all on Sarah. Therefore Shi Shujing was not sure if she was seeing things. Her heart skipped a beat and her fingers trembled. After a while, when she was picking the fish, a voice suddenly asked, "The fish here tastes good?" Shi Shujing's attention fell on her for no reason. She opened her mouth in confusion. Sarah was very attentive. "Do you want to eat? Let me help you." Si Wenchen shook his head and pondered. "I just feel that the fish must taste good when I see Manager Shi eating so attentively." Shi Shujing was shocked and the fish bone was stuck in her throat. She endured the pain and smiled awkwardly. "Not bad. Speaking of which, we can have dinner today thanks to Manager Shi's persistence. Your perseverance has won my respect. Let me propose a toast to you." Shi Shujing was suffering from the fish bone, but she did not dare to embarrass Si Wenchen, so she drank half a glass of red wine with him. But Si Wenchen felt that it was not enough. If he wanted to propose a second toast to her, Shi Shujing would be in a difficult position. Red wine is meant to be tasted. It's a waste to drink it too quickly. A toast to Manager Shi is not a waste at all. Si Wenchen squinted her eyes and said meaningfully. Under her thick eyelashes, her eyes were deep and beautiful, so dark that they could see straight into people's hearts. "I can't hold my liquor well. Manager Shi, you are being modest. I have seen your liquor capacity. 1 or 2 glasses of red wine is not a problem for you." With so many people watching, if Shi Shujing refused, it would be too insensible. He could only bite the bullet and drink another cup. When it came to the 3rd cup, he really couldn't drink any more. He shook his head, indicating that he couldn't hold his liquor. Seeing this, Sarah offered to drink for her, but Si Wenchen refused. "This glass of wine must be drunk by Manager Shi personally." He said this with a smile, still calm and elegant, like a beautiful gentleman, but his eyes contained a cold luster. The tip of his eyebrows was cold and uncompromising, making Sarah's heart tremble, not daring to say anything more. He held the goblet in his hand and stared at her with a faint smile on his face. Shi Shujing knew he couldn't escape, so he gritted his teeth and raised his head to gulp it down. He drank too quickly and started coughing violently, causing his face to turn red. The stylist beside her hurriedly handed her a tissue, smoothed her back and softly expressed his concern. "Are you all right?" Shi Shujing shook his head, stood up, and said that he needed to go to the washroom before leaving. Si Wenchen sat where he was and slowly took a sip of the red wine. He felt the mellow taste of the wine swirling in his mouth and sliding down his throat, causing a burning sensation. In his deep and mysterious smiling eyes, there was a hint of coldness hidden within. Shi Shujing rushed to the washroom and lay on the toilet bowl uncomfortably, unable to vomit anything out. She wasn't drunk, but she drank too quickly just now, and now her throat and stomach were on fire, making her feel very uncomfortable. After struggling for a long time, she finally spat out the fish bone in her throat. She raised her head uncomfortably, gasping for air like a fish out of oxygen. She walked to the mirror and washed her hands. In the mirror, her eyes were red, probably because she had choked earlier. She carefully wiped her eyes with a tissue and tidied up her hair. The uncomfortable feeling was gone, but the alcohol was slowly getting stronger. Shi Shujing's cheeks began to turn red and hot, so red that they were a little swollen, and her eyes narrowed into a line. In this situation she just wanted to leave everything behind and go home directly. But tonight she was responsible for it and she had to hold on no matter what. Shi Shujing walked out of the washroom and bumped into Si Wenqin. He was standing in the corridor with his back against the wall, holding a cigarette in one hand and puffing out smoke. His stature was extremely tall and took up a large area. He was extremely eye-catching, and a long windbreaker of superior quality wrapped around his well-built physique. The face that was revealed was fair and beautiful. Even though it was somewhat arrogant and unreasonable, his expression was magnanimous and elegant. He was well-dressed, eye-catching, and beautiful. People passing by couldn't help but turn back to look at him a few times, unable to take their eyes off him. Shi Shujing was a little angry with him, but she still greeted him. "Why did you come out?" Si Wenqin licked his lips, his eyes clear and sharp. "I was worried about you, so I came out to have a look." Shi Shujing felt that it was funny. Who was the person who made her drink just now? Didn't he feel that it was too fake to worry about her after drinking her? There was a hint of sarcasm in his words. "Based on Boss C's understanding of me, can those 3 glasses of wine make me drunk? Tonight's dinner was carefully arranged by you. Isn't it too impolite if I don't toast you 3 glasses? The meaning behind his words was very deep, coupled with that meaningful smile. Shi Shujing couldn't help but think about it. For a moment she realized that his behavior just now was very likely to be deliberately messing with her, because she arranged Sarah for him. But he was clearly very satisfied, wasn't he? How enjoyable it was when they were chatting. So what was this? Still pretending to be obedient after getting a bargain? Looking for trouble with her? The alcohol went to her head and her ears were buzzing. Shi Shujing didn't have the brain capacity to guess what he was thinking. "I'll go in first." Her whole body felt light and her legs turned to jelly. The next second she felt a tightness around her waist and she was already in his arms. It just happened to meet his strong and distinct jaw, which was as clear and sharp as the outline of a brush. The lines were very sexy, and her breath was filled with his domineering masculine scent. "One is not enough, give one for free?" His deep laughter came into her ears. Shi Shujing shrank a little, and when she looked up she met his playful eyes. She felt frightened and struggled for a while. "You, let go." In the corridor where people were coming and going he was so close to her as if he was using his arms to isolate another space. There were only the 2 of them in this space and it made her forget everything around her. She only felt that the atmosphere and the air were so oppressive, making her restless. "Let go." However, Si Wenqin held her waist with one hand and refused to let go. "That's Sarah. Was it you who arranged for me?" Shi Shujing's throat trembled. His tightly pursed thin lips and the cold light hidden deep in his eyes scared her. Because she couldn't figure out what he meant, she denied it when her mind was in a mess. "No, it's not." "Oh? Are you sure it's not a gift that you carefully prepared for me?" Shi Shujing felt the strength of his fingers increasing. Obviously he saw through her lies and insisted on the truth. In fact, he also knew the truth, but he just wanted her to admit it herself. Shi Shujing trembled. It's the company's arrangement? But you know it very well, right?" Shi Shujing didn't say anything, which meant that he agreed. "But you're very satisfied with such an arrangement, right?" She was quite resistant to his embrace. That warm body temperature, that familiar sense of intimacy, kept fermenting between the 2 of them. When he lowered his head and whispered in her ear, his breath sprayed on her cheek. The tipsy feeling of both of them entangled with each other, burning and burning, burning her whole body. Under the influence of alcohol, she kept recalling that intense kiss, as if her soul had been emptied by him. At the same time, the image of him whispering intimately to Sarah appeared. This man could be so intimate with any woman. She was just one of his many women. She really didn't like this feeling. The same embrace, the same gentleness applied to everyone. She felt nauseous. "You think that I like Sarah? Isn't it? She's beautiful and sensible and she admires you so much." Shi Shujing breathed out the scorching smell of alcohol. Her mind was dizzy and she started to speak without thinking. "Which man wouldn't like her? What you said makes sense." Si Wenqin smiled, revealing his white fangs. His handsome face had a cruel beauty, but at the same time, there was a kind of sorrowful gentleness. He pinched her chin. "Women should be like her." No man would like a hedgehog like you. Her chin that was pinched by him was burning hot, and Shi Shujing's breathing was uneven. As long as you like it? Since your company wants to send a woman to me, why not you? I'm in charge of discussing the project with you, not a gift. Why not? If you're willing to accompany me, I'll sign the contract right now. I don't need Sarah or any other woman. You're enough. Wouldn't it save a lot of effort? If she insisted that she was not for sale, his words would humiliate her and she would probably be mocked by him. Shi Shujing endured it. Anyway, this is the company's arrangement. It's best if you're satisfied. If not, I have no other way. You make it sound like you have no choice? But I think that you're also thinking of using her to get rid of me. Do you think you're so smart? When the two of them were in close contact, Si Wenxin seemed to have changed into a completely different person. His true nature was revealed, frivolous, and his voice was low and hoarse. What? Am I so annoying that you're willing to use other women to get rid of me? Shi Shujing was probably drunk at this moment and had enough of his teasing, so she asked back boldly. If I say yes, will you stay away from me? Si Wenxin did not speak and only smiled. That smile made Shi Shujing's hair stand on end and she felt uneasy. She did not know what he was up to. Since this gift is carefully prepared for me, then I'll accept it. He suddenly let go of her and left, as if the man who was so warm and affectionate with her just now was not him. Shi Shujing was shocked. She clutched her chest and panted heavily. He took away the heat and her body instantly turned cold. It was as if there was wind constantly pouring into her body. It was chilly and the cold and hot alternated. Her forehead was covered in sweat and her face was pale. Not long after they returned to the private room, Si Wenxin said that he wanted to leave, and Sarah followed him. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.